Are we the first advanced civilization on Earth? Or merely the latest in a cycle forgotten by time? The past whispers of impossible knowledge. Across the globe, disconnected cultures built megalithic structures with astronomical alignments so precise they defy chance. Ancient texts describe flying machines and catastrophic wars that sound eerily modern. How did they map the stars with such accuracy? How did they move and carve 100-ton stones with a precision we struggle to replicate today? History as we know it may only be the last chapter of a much longer, more astonishing story. We are not just digging up stones, we are uncovering evidence of a past far more brilliant than we were ever told. Amid the endless gallery of ancient Egyptian symbols, one image rises above all the others, not because it is the most beautiful, nor the most elaborate, but because it is the most haunting. A pillar that should not exist, a shape that fits nowhere, a mystery that refuses to die. For more than 100 years, archaeologists have stood before the Djed pillar with the same mixture of awe and frustration. It appears everywhere on pre-dynastic tomb walls, in royal ceremonies, on amulets, buried with the dead, beside the god Osiris himself, yet no one can say with certainty what it truly represents. Dozens of theories have been proposed, from the poetic to the technical, from the mythological to the mechanical, but none can claim victory. The Djed remains still silent, almost defiant, too structured to be symbolic, too enigmatic to reveal its original purpose. And that silence, stretching across 5,000 years, is precisely what makes it one of the greatest enigmas Egypt has ever carved into stone. What do you think the original purpose of the Djed pillar was? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What makes the Djed pillar stand out from the very first moment is its bizarre form, so unusual that it cannot be compared to any object in the real world. It is a vertical column, topped with 4 or 5 stacked horizontal layers, creating a structure with no equivalent anywhere in ancient Egypt. It resembles neither a temple pillar, nor a structural support, nor any natural spine known to humankind. What's more striking is that despite thousands of artifacts unearthed across centuries, not a single object matching the Djed's shape has ever been discovered, raising the question, where did this design come from? If the Djed were purely symbolic, why would it possess such a rigid, mechanical, almost device-like appearance? And if it was once based on a real physical object, why have all traces of that object vanished completely from Egyptian history, leaving behind no description, no model, and no explanation whatsoever? In Egyptian mythology, the Djed pillar is often described as the backbone of Osiris, the god who governs death and resurrection. However, this seemingly simple explanation fails to resolve the many inconsistencies within its very shape. A real spine could never have 4 distinct horizontal tiers, nor could it possess such a rigid, squared, almost mechanical appearance. It gives the impression that this design does not belong to a biological structure at all, but rather resembles the remnant of an object that once had a specific function. Moreover, ancient reliefs frequently place the Djed alongside 2 other symbols, the Ankh and the Waz, forming a trio many scholars call the Triad of Power. When seen together, the 3 bear a strangely technological resemblance, as if they were once familiar tools or devices in everyday life, later mythologized over centuries and detached from their original purpose to become religious symbols. The Djed pillar becomes even more mysterious when considering the rituals associated with it. For thousands of years, the Egyptians performed a major ceremony known as the raising of the Djed, a ritual considered as important as royal coronation. A Djed was laid horizontally, then pulled upright and fixed into position amid music and the chanting of hundreds of people. Yet ancient texts never explain why this ceremony was so important, nor why it was continuously reenacted across dynasties. If the Djed were merely a religious symbol, Why would the Egyptians dedicate such a complex technical collective effort to it? Some modern researchers now ask, was this ritual, reenacting an even older event, something real in history that later became mythologized? The greatest and most challenging mystery surrounding the Djed pillar lies in the question of its true purpose, a question that has driven academic debate for more than a century without ever reaching a shared conclusion. Hundreds of studies across archaeology, linguistics, religious history, and iconography have been conducted. Yet the only consensus scholars can agree on is that there is no consensus at all. Three major theories dominate the discussion, but each one once proposed is immediately weakened by conflicting evidence. The first interprets the Djed as a mythological symbol representing stability and the spine of Osiris. Yet this does not explain why it has such a rigid technical form with 4 horizontal tiers, unrelated to any anatomical structure. The second argues that the Djed is a stylized representation of a now lost physical object, possibly a wooden pillar or architectural component. But if so, why did Egypt, a civilization famous for meticulous record-keeping, leave behind no description of it, even though trivial things like beer recipes were documented? The third and most controversial theory claims that the Djed was once a form of ancient technology based on its mechanical shaped cable-like grooves and its presence in tombs associated with energy and resurrection. Yet this theory is rejected due to the absence of physical evidence for any advanced technology. The contradictions among the three ideas create a widening void, a mystery with no definitive answer, one that may never be resolved. What makes the Djed pillar one of Egypt's greatest mysteries is that none of the theories fully eliminate the others. Each explains part of the puzzle, but leaves other parts unsolved, creating a paradox. The Djed is simultaneously symbolic and technical, religious, yet architectural, tied to stability and resurrection, while also appearing strangely mechanical. The lack of consensus is not due to a lack of research, but because ancient Egypt left no textual description of the Djed's original purpose. It appears in their civilization as an already understood truth, something so fundamental that no explanation was necessary. This silence creates the biggest void of all. Only the ancient Egyptians truly knew its meaning. The modern world is merely trying to interpret a symbol used for thousands of years, layered with myth and cultural evolution. Today, after more than 5,000 years, the Djed pillar still stands on tomb walls, coffins, and reliefs as a reminder that not all mysteries of Egypt can be unraveled by modern science. And perhaps it is this lack of agreement, this silence spanning over a millennium, that forms the greatest mystery the Djed leaves behind, a symbol both familiar and alien, intimate yet unreachable, prompting humanity to keep asking, what has been lost to time, and what secrets does the Djed pillar still hold? Hidden deep within the heart of the Peton rainforest, where tangled canopies swallow even the strongest sunlight, lies a city so strange it challenges everything we think we know about the ancient world, El Mirador. Not a small, forgotten ruin, but a colossal Maya megacity, so vast that even modern maps seem too small to contain it. In the silent wilderness, its gigantic pyramids still rise like stone phantoms from another age, watching time pass for thousands of years. But the most unsettling thing is not its unimaginable scale. It is the absolute silence that blankets the entire city. No records, no legends, not a single memory from the Maya themselves mentioning El Mirador, a megacity once so brilliant it could have reshaped the history of Central America, simply vanished from human memory as if someone deliberately erased it from the timeline. This is not just an archaeological mystery, it is a direct challenge to us. How could such a powerful civilization collapse in complete and total silence? What do you think truly caused El Mirador to disappear in complete silence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The remaining ruins of El Mirador reveal that this city reached its peak long before most of the ancient world. Centuries before the classic Maya era emerged, it already possessed pyramids rising above the forest canopy avenues so wide they defy belief, and an intricate system of reservoirs and canals, despite the absence of any major river nearby. This level of advancement, far beyond its time, continues to puzzle archaeologists. How could such a magnificent metropolis vanish almost without leaving a single explanation behind? When stepping into El Mirador, the structure that leaves anyone in awe is the Ladanta Pyramid, a marvel whose total volume surpasses even the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. What seems unbelievable is that the pre-classic Maya built it entirely by human power, without wheels, without draft animals, and without metal tools. They transported millions of tons of stone through dense rainforest and stacked massive platforms layer by layer to create a structure that nearly touches the sky. The scale and engineering of Ladanta challenge modern understanding of what an early society was capable of, making it the starting point of the many mysteries surrounding El Mirador. Hidden beneath the dense rainforest lies one of the most perplexing aspects of El Mirador: a transportation network and urban layout far ahead of its time. Dozens of stone-paved causeways, some as wide as 40 meters, linked El Mirador to distant settlements many kilometers away, cutting straight across rugged terrain, like white arteries slicing through the jungle. When scanned with LiDAR technology, the entire region appears like a deliberately arranged artificial nervous system. Such scale and precision reveal a level of social organization surprisingly advanced for a pre-classic civilization. But this perfection only makes El Mirador's downfall even more unsettling. Around the 2nd century BCE, while many other Maya cities continued to flourish, El Mirador, this colossal urban center, was abandoned almost in an instant. No signs of warfare, no evidence of destructive natural disasters, no burned structures or mass conflict. Everything simply stopped. Buildings left unfinished. Foundations for future structures left intact. Archaeologists describe it as a silent collapse. Attempts to explain the collapse of El Mirador have produced 4 major theories, yet the strange reality is that none of them are truly convincing, making this city one of the most unresolved enigmas in the history of Mesoamerica. The first theory suggests that El Mirador declined due to exhausted agricultural soil. Deforestation to expand farmland may have degraded the fertile topsoil, leading to food shortages and population decline. However, the larger question remains: why would a massive urban center collapse so severely while many other Maya cities facing similar conditions continued to flourish? There is no evidence of a regional simultaneous downfall, weakening the soil depletion hypothesis. The second theory involves internal conflict or civil war. A large, highly organized society like El Mirador could indeed have experienced power struggles among its elite. Yet excavations reveal none of the hallmarks of ancient warfare. No destroyed walls, no burned residential zones, no traces of mass violence. The city fell far too quietly for any known conflict. The third theory points to climate change, particularly prolonged droughts. But El Mirador possessed one of the most advanced water management systems of the ancient world: enormous reservoirs, artificial canals, filtration structures, and rainwater storage capable of sustaining the population through harsh, dry seasons. A city with such mastery over hydrology is unlikely to fall solely because of natural drought. The final and most debated theory emphasizes a shift in belief systems and social structure, a transformation of ideology that led inhabitants to voluntarily abandon the city. Some scholars propose that El Mirador declined not due to disaster or war, but because of a spiritual transition when the centers of Maya religion, power, and symbolism moved to later classic period cities, Yet the mystery persists. How could a change in belief prompt hundreds of thousands of people to leave a megacity without leaving any evidence of coercion, chaos, or violence? This silence, absolute silence, in archaeology and in cultural memory makes the fall of El Mirador one of the greatest unanswered questions in Central American archaeology. The deeper scholars look, the stranger it becomes. For centuries after its abandonment, El Mirador was never resettled, reused, or reclaimed, unlike most Maya cities, which were often inhabited again by later groups. El Mirador was not. It remained untouched, as if frozen, sealed by history itself. Even more mysterious is the fact that after its disappearance, El Mirador was almost completely erased from the collective memory of the later Maya. No legends, no oral stories, no references in their sacred texts. A massive city that once served as the greatest political and religious hub in Central America simply vanished from both history and folklore, leaving nothing but silence. Today, thanks to LiDAR technology, archaeologists know that more than 80% of El Mirador remains buried beneath the jungle, making the investigation even more difficult. Many sections remain unexcavated, not only due to harsh terrain, but also because the Guatemalan government restricts digging to protect the site from looters. This makes El Mirador almost a real-life Atlantis on land, a gigantic, partially hidden relic waiting for answers. All these elements, from its extraordinary scale to its advanced engineering and its silent, inexplicable collapse, make El Mirador one of the greatest mysteries of the Maya world. A city so grand it shatters assumptions about ancient human capability, yet so quiet in its disappearance it feels touched by an invisible hand. Perhaps future excavations will reveal the truth. But for now, El Mirador remains a warning. Human history holds far more voids than we realize, and sometimes the largest voids lie right beneath our feet, hidden under ancient forests, whispering stories that have never been told. Across the sun-scorched plains of central Myanmar, where every gust of wind carries the red dust of thousands of years, there is a place that makes anyone who sets foot there feel as if they've stepped into another world. No noise, no modern cities, only a sea of ancient temples stretching endlessly toward the horizon. This is Bagan, a land where even sunlight seems to be swallowed by the deep, ancient red of its sacred bricks. Seen from above, Bagan doesn't look like a historical site at all. It looks like a colossal dream, made of brick and devotion, where the more than 2,000 temples that survive today are only the remnants of something once 4 or 5 times greater. At its height, this land held more than 10,000 religious structures, built not by a mighty empire or an exceptionally wealthy kingdom, but by a people devout and ambitious enough to turn an entire plain into a vast forest of sacred monuments. And yet what overwhelms visitors is not just the sheer number of temples, but the unreal feeling of standing among those silent spires, as if you've wandered into an epic whose final chapter has been torn away. A story built with unimaginable effort, but whose ending no one truly knows. What do you think actually caused the pagan kingdom to disappear so suddenly? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Whenever researchers look at the density of temples across Bagan, they are confronted with a paradox that defies simple explanation. How could a kingdom with a modest population, rudimentary construction techniques, and a complete lack of modern reinforcing materials create such an enormous number of monuments in just a few centuries? From the 11th to the 13th century, each pagan ruler seemed to be swept into an unstoppable wave of temple construction, with structures rising so quickly that historical records could not keep pace. No one truly knows how they mobilized labor on such a scale, how they calculated architectural stability, or what religious and political forces drove an entire society to participate in an unprecedented architectural explosion unmatched anywhere else in the region. When researchers analyzed the spatial layout of Bagan more closely, they realized that the arrangement of its temples seemed far more intentional than it first appeared. Many temple clusters form massive mandala-like patterns, suggesting a cosmological organization, while others align precisely along the east-west axis as if calibrated with ancient astronomical instruments. Some structures stand at exact intersections associated with old religious rituals, sparking decades of debate among archaeologists. Was Bagan a carefully designed sacred map meant to mirror the order of the cosmos, or are these striking patterns merely the product of centuries of layered construction that accidentally created extraordinary coincidences? When stepping into the great temples of Ananda Sulamani or Damayangi, one immediately realizes that the construction techniques of the pagan builders far surpassed what we usually imagine from an ancient brick-based architecture. The long corridors run with astonishing straightness. The arched ceilings curve with precision as if measured using modern instruments, and the natural ventilation system regulates light and temperature inside with remarkable efficiency. Without steel, without machinery, using only fired bricks and mortar, the pagan craftsmen still achieved a level of symmetry rarely seen in ancient architecture. Even more impressive, many of the Buddha statues inside were crafted using refined visual techniques, stern when viewed up close, gentle from afar, their gaze shifting subtly with every step you take. This visual effect remains something modern science still cannot fully replicate, raising even deeper questions about the true capabilities of these ancient builders. When researchers examined the deeper architectural layers of Bagan, they realized that not all temples were completed as their exteriors suggest. Several major structures show clear signs of construction abruptly halted, with no evidence of war or natural disaster that might explain their abandonment. Inside many temples, old tunnels, hollow wall chambers, and rooms sealed with bricks remain inaccessible after centuries of earthquakes and erosion blocking their entrances. Even more mysterious, some Buddha statues were deliberately walled off within the inner sanctum, as if someone once sought to protect or hide something. Yet the true reason behind these actions remains a significant void in Bagan's historical narrative. But the greatest mystery of all is not found within the bricks or statues. It lies in the sudden and unusually rapid fall of the pagan kingdom, a collapse so swift that it has baffled historians for more than 7 centuries. By the late 13th century, Pagan, once a flourishing Buddhist center filled with monumental architecture, collapsed within just a few decades. Historical sources record no catastrophic natural event strong enough to dismantle royal power, nor any kingdom-wide war that could cause widespread destruction. The population did not drastically decline, the farmlands remained fertile, and there was no great famine. Yet the kingdom simply unraveled. Temples were left standing in silence, with no caretakers, no continued construction. When trying to explain the unusual disappearance of the pagan kingdom, historians have proposed many different theories, yet strangely none of them offer a truly definitive answer. The most common theory suggests that Pagan exhausted itself by constructing too many temples. Over generations, kings poured immense resources into building monuments, making donations, and expanding monastic influence, allowing vast amounts of land and wealth to flow into religious institutions. However, modern economic analyses indicate that the population size and rice production of that era was strong enough to sustain the kingdom even amidst large-scale temple construction. The second theory involves Mongol incursions. Although there were several minor attacks, the Mongols did not destroy the architectural heart of Bagan, which is difficult to reconcile if they were truly the main cause of the kingdom's collapse. Some scholars have attempted to attribute the decline to disease or climate change, but archaeology has uncovered no clear evidence of any disaster or epidemic devastating the region. Another perspective argues that the excessive power of monastic institutions destabilized the kingdom. As the monkhood controlled increasing amounts of land, royal authority weakened, leading to internal fragmentation. Yet political turmoil alone is unlikely to cause an entire kingdom to collapse so quickly, especially when there are no signs of widespread conflict or natural catastrophe. All these theories, while plausible on the surface, still fail to address the strangest truth of all. Pagan did not fall because of a fatal blow, it simply faded quietly, as if it slipped into the shadows of history, without leaving behind a conclusive explanation. The most perplexing aspect is this: the fall of Pagan happened quietly, without a defining event, without a decisive battle, without clear documentation describing its final moments. Pagan was not burned, not leveled, not fully conquered. It simply stopped, as if the entire royal apparatus lost its will to continue. The result is that Pagan became a city of silent temples, preserved almost intact, precisely because no conqueror ever destroyed it. This only deepens the enigma of Pagan's disappearance, making it one of Southeast Asia's greatest historical mysteries. Today, standing among thousands of temples stretching to the horizon, one feels as though walking through a journal whose final page has been torn away. The fired bricks have survived nearly a millennium, recording devotion, architectural mastery, and the improbable rise of a small kingdom. Yet the final entry, the one that matters most, remains unwritten. And perhaps it is this void that makes Pagan one of the most captivating enigmas of ancient civilization, a kingdom capable of building tens of thousands of temples, yet leaving behind no explanation for its own disappearance. The Ante Grande do Zambujeiro, located in the Alentejo region of Portugal, is considered one of the largest and most impressive dolmens, ancient stone tombs ever built in Western Europe during the Neolithic era. Standing before massive stones, reaching up to 7 meters high, erected upright on a flat surface, one cannot help but feel overwhelmed. A prehistoric community with no metal, no wheels, and no pulleys was somehow able to construct a monument so monumental it defies the technological limits of its time. These stones, weighing dozens of tons, form a circle around a large chamber connected to the outside world by a corridor over 12 meters long. All of it aligns toward the southeast, a directional choice rarely accidental in ancient architecture. Yet despite these physical clues, the greatest mystery lies at the heart of the story. Why did people more than 6,000 years ago build something so colossal? And what was its true purpose? Why do you think Neolithic people built such an enormous structure? Share your thoughts in the comments below. According to archaeological findings, this monument was constructed sometime between 4000 and 3500 BCE, an era when agricultural communities were only beginning to develop more complex social structures, but not yet advanced enough to mobilize hundreds of workers for extended periods just to build a tomb. The most suspicious element is the clear mismatch between its massive scale and the assumed funerary purpose. Typical Neolithic tombs were small, modest, designed to bury a few individuals together. But Zambujeiro is completely different. It resembles a stone cathedral, a ceremonial center, a symbolic structure far more than a simple burial site. When archaeologists began excavating, they found traces suggesting people were indeed buried here, such as pottery, ivory artifacts, and fragments of bone. But rather than solving the central question, these findings deepened the mystery. If this was just a tomb, why erect stones nearly 7 meters tall? Why build a corridor much longer than the usual dolmens in Western Europe? And why place quartz crystals or ivory bracelets in positions that resemble ritual offerings rather than burial goods? Many scholars believe that Ante Grande do Zambujeiro was not merely a burial site, but may have once served as the primary ceremonial center of an entire Neolithic community. They imagine it as a seasonal gathering place where the living connected with their ancestors and performed rituals tied to the winter sunrise or other sacred natural cycles. The corridor's southeast orientation seems to reinforce this idea, as if the monument were intentionally designed to capture the first rays of light on significant days. However, the mystery lies in the absence of supporting evidence. Thousands of years of erosion have erased any certainty about its original alignment, and more importantly, there are no legends records or cultural traces indicating that ancient inhabitants conducted rituals here. This complete silence of history makes the theory both fascinating and doubtful. It is hard to believe that such a monumental structure left behind no memory within the community that lived around it. The symbol of power hypothesis suggests that the Grande do Zambujeiro may have been a way for a small group within the Neolithic community to assert their status. If it was indeed built by an elite class, such as spiritual leaders or influential families, then the monument functioned like a statement of dominance, demonstrating their ability to mobilize labor control resources and organize large-scale construction during a very early stage of societal development. However, archaeological evidence in Alentejo shows no clear signs of strong social stratification. Investing such immense effort into building a megalith purely to display authority, therefore, appears ideologically plausible, yet remains unsupported by concrete evidence. One of the strangest aspects of the monument is the complete absence of local legends. Other dolmens across Europe are linked to folktales, places where fairies slept, giants dropped stones, or spirits lingered. But Zambujeiro has none of that. Not a single story survives to connect later generations to the people who built it. This raises a troubling question. Was the monument abandoned so early that all cultural memory of it vanished? One of the most astonishing mysteries of the Grande do Zambujeiro lies in its roof structure. Today, all that remains is a massive stone slab, roughly 8 meters long and weighing tens of tons, lying tilted like the remnant of an ancient collapse. Yet many specialists believe the original roof may have been far more complex, not just a single stone laid on top, but perhaps a system of supporting stones, wooden beams, or even an earthen mound, forming an enormous ceremonial dome. The most perplexing question is how Neolithic communities managed to raise a roof nearly 7 meters high without metal tools, without wheels, and without pulleys. How did they accomplish such a feat? There are no surviving technical traces, no specialized tools, and no recorded descriptions. That fallen stone roof thus stands as the clearest evidence of an engineering achievement far beyond what we typically imagine ancient peoples were capable of. From an archaeological perspective, the grave goods found suggest ritual symbolism rather than simple burial practice. Quartz crystals, arranged intentionally, ivory bracelets of high value at the time, and decorated pottery not typically used for funerary purposes all point to ceremonial activities linked to ancestor worship or spiritual transition. But the most debated question among scholars remains, why build something so enormous? If rituals were the only purpose, a much smaller structure would have sufficed. The exaggerated scale lacks practical justification. Its illogical size leads many to believe the structure may have been even larger originally. Several stones have collapsed, shifted, or disappeared entirely, creating the impression that what we see today is only the skeleton of a once grand monument. The collapsed roof also raises questions. Was it natural decay over millennia, or did ancient people intentionally dismantle parts of it during later ritual changes? All these questions bring us back to the central mystery. What was the true purpose of the Grande do Zambujeiro? Modern scholarship still cannot agree. Some say it was a tomb, but its scale contradicts this. Others claim it was a temple, yet clear ritual evidence is lacking. Still others argue it was a symbol of power, but there is no strong sign of a hierarchical society at the time. Every theory makes sense in some ways and collapses in others. This tension between archaeological evidence and realistic logic has made Grande do Zambujeiro one of the greatest mysteries of Europe's Neolithic era. The people who built it seem to have left their most important message at its very core, but after thousands of years of erosion, all we can see now are the remaining stones, scattered ritual traces, and the empty silence of a purpose that was never written down. And until a new clue emerges, its secret will continue to lie quietly under the skies of Alentejo, defying every attempt at explanation. In the northwestern desert of Cairo, where winds sweep across limestone ridges and the sun scorches every ribbon of sand, there lies a strange archaeological site that few people know about: the Abu Rawash Pyramid. If the pyramids at Giza stand majestic, intact, and iconic, then Abu Rawash is a ghost, a structure almost completely destroyed, leaving behind only a bare foundation, shattered massive stone blocks, and stair-like remnants leading into nothingness. Yet it is precisely this incompleteness that makes it one of the most perplexing mysteries of ancient Egypt. For more than 1 century, archaeologists have tried to piece together fragments of its history to understand what it once was: a fully built pyramid later demolished, an abandoned construction, an astronomical platform, or a site meant for ritual purposes never recorded. But no matter how long the research continues, one question remains. Pharaoh Djedefre, whose name appears everywhere around the site, where was he buried? Where do you think Djedefre was truly buried? Share your theory in the comments below. From the earliest surveys at Abu Rawash, researchers found countless scattered stone fragments, many of them clearly inscribed with the royal name of Pharaoh Djedefre. Enormous blocks of red granite materials, notoriously difficult to quarry and transport, were discovered precisely in locations that once belonged to important ceremonial structures. All of this confirms that Djedefre was undeniably the owner of this monument, leaving little room for confusion with any other king. Yet the strangest paradox lies at the very heart of the pyramid. His burial chamber is completely gone. No tomb shaft, no stone sarcophagus, no traces of a mummy. Not a single clue indicating that the body of a pharaoh was ever placed here. This raises a question that has baffled Egyptologists for centuries. How could a structure that demanded so much effort, engineering skill, and costly materials be entirely missing its most essential element, the burial chamber, which was always the first section constructed in every pyramid? The overwhelming presence of Djedefre's name stands in stark contrast to the absolute absence of anything related to his death, forming one of the deepest enigmas of ancient Egypt. Was Djedefre truly buried here, or is this entire monument a hollow shell masking a story we have yet to uncover? One of the most frequently mentioned theories suggests that Djedefre's burial chamber was completely destroyed by the Romans when they dismantled the pyramid to extract stone for nearby construction. However, upon closer examination, this argument quickly reveals its weaknesses. Although the Romans certainly had the capability to dismantle a pyramid, the idea that they could erase an entire underground tomb without leaving the slightest architectural trace is nearly impossible. Even in the most heavily plundered pyramids, tunnels, corridors, or at least remnants of auxiliary chambers still survive. But at Abu Rawash, everything has vanished in absolute completeness. No descending passage, no interior corridor, not even a small technical shaft. This total emptiness has led many scholars to wonder, perhaps Djedefre never intended to be buried here at all, or perhaps the chamber disappeared in a way that history has never been able to explain. To grasp how strange Abu Rawash is, one must look at what remains. The foundation is impressively leveled, almost matching the precision of Khufu's pyramid at Giza. Giant limestone blocks, weighing tens of tons, are fitted tightly together, demonstrating advanced engineering and skilled labor. This makes the mystery deeper. Why would a highly advanced construction lack a burial chamber? Traditionally, pyramid builders always completed the tomb chamber and sarcophagus room first, then built the structure upward. But at Abu Rawash, the only well-finished part is the platform, while the underground section, where the chamber should be, is completely empty. Some scholars believe Djedefre intended to create a false pyramid, a symbolic monument dedicated to the sun god Ra, atop a high hill. But this conflicts with the Da Liang royal inscriptions at the site. If it were merely ritual carving, Djedefre's name everywhere would not be necessary. Others argue that Abu Rawash was meant to be a true tomb, but the mummy was relocated before the pyramid was completed. The question is, relocated where and why in total secrecy? No ancient document mentions Djedefre being buried anywhere else. The complete absence of a burial chamber has led to a much bolder theory that Djedefre's tomb may never have been built at all, and the pyramid project was halted during its earliest stages. Yet this idea is also filled with contradictions, as Djedefre ruled for about 8 years more than enough time to complete at least the subterranean chamber, which was always the first component constructed. For this reason, some scholars suggest that the tomb may lie deeper than any modern excavation has reached, or perhaps was concealed using architectural deception similar to Sneferu's false passages. However, no evidence has yet been found to support the existence of such hidden structures. The most perplexing aspect remains unchanged. Djedefre's name appears everywhere throughout Abu Rawash, yet any trace connected to his body is completely absent, as if this pharaoh was never prepared for a final resting place at all. Beyond the mystery of the missing burial chamber, the very location of Abu Rawash also confounds researchers. The pyramid stands precariously atop a high limestone hill where transporting stone blocks weighing tens of tons would have been an almost impossible challenge for the technology of the Old Kingdom. Choosing such a rugged and impractical site has led many scholars to suspect that this place was not meant solely for burial, but may have been designed for astronomical purposes, a vantage point for observing the sun and celestial movements far superior to the flat plateau of Giza. Yet this raises another paradox. If it were truly a solar pyramid, why does Djedefre's name appear so densely throughout the site? And if he intended to be buried here, why choose a location so difficult to construct and so inconsistent with traditional royal tomb architecture? These contradictions leave the true purpose of Abu Rawash, a mystery that remains unresolved to this day. Another layer of mystery surrounding Abu Rawash lies in the near-total destruction inflicted by the Romans. While the great pyramids of Khufu and Khafre have endured for millennia, Abu Rawash was dismantled so thoroughly that only its foundation remains. This deliberate and comprehensive demolition has led scholars to wonder whether something of great value once existed inside something worth driving the Romans to excavate the monument to its very core. Yet the strangest part is the complete absence of any ancient record describing this dismantling. Everything happened in silence, as if the pyramid was meant to vanish from history. Even after centuries have passed, the Abu Rawash pyramid remains one of ancient Egypt's greatest enigmas. It is a monument bearing the name of a pharaoh, yet not a single trace of him has ever been found. Its foundation was crafted with astonishing precision, but the entire interior stands completely empty, as if it was never built at all. A structure that should have towered over the desert now survives only as a faint shadow of its former self. And Djedefre the king, whose name appears everywhere, has vanished without leaving any clue about his final resting place. Hidden deep within an ancient Italian forest, where the sunlight barely reaches the ground and the air carries the weight of forgotten centuries, stands a monumental structure carved from a single block of volcanic stone. Locals walked past it for generations, without ever realizing its presence. Scholars didn't even know it existed until the late 20th century. Today, we call it the Etruscan Pyramid of Bomarzo. But even that name is an assumption. It is not a pyramid like those of Egypt. It is not a temple, nor a tomb. It is a staircase to nowhere, rising from the forest floor, like a relic from a vanished world. And the greatest mystery is this. After thousands of years, with all our modern tools, investigations, and archaeological theories, we still have no idea why the Etruscans built it. No inscriptions, no symbols, no clues, just silence, carved in stone. What do you think this structure was truly built for? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hidden within the forests of Bomarzo, this unusual structure was carved entirely from a single block of volcanic rock, rising nearly 7 meters high, with an intricate network of stairways leading to a large flat platform at the top. During examination, researchers realized it resembled neither a tomb nor a temple, as it shows no traces of auxiliary buildings, no burial chambers, and no decorative sculptures. What puzzled scholars even more was the complete absence of inscriptions or religious symbols, something extremely rare in Etruscan constructions. Centuries of overgrown vegetation had almost erased it from human memory until archaeologist Giovanni Feo accidentally rediscovered it in 1991. The discovery immediately shook the academic community, as its design and location fit almost none of the known architectural patterns of the Etruscans. The Bomarzo structure is astonishing because it resembles none of the known forms of Etruscan architecture. While the Etruscans were famous for their orderly cities and deeply buried tombs, this monument rises above the ground, with large stairways that feel as if they were meant to lead participants into a solemn ritual. Its small, meticulously carved channels, deliberately shaped deep niches, and especially the wide altar-like platform, have led many scholars to believe it once served a religious purpose. Yet its unusually large scale and isolated location in the dense forest raise an unsettling question. If it was merely an altar, why was it built in a place so completely removed from any known ancient settlement? Among all the questions surrounding the Bomarzo pyramid, the mystery of its true purpose remains the most fiercely debated topic in Etruscan archaeology. The massive stairways, the carved niches, the carefully chiseled channels, and the wide platform at the top all suggest that this was never a structure for ordinary use, but a space deliberately designed for ceremonial intent. The most widely accepted theory proposes that Bomarzo served as a religious ritual site where Etruscan priests conducted sacrifices, prayers, or divine communication from an elevated vantage point. The staircase may have symbolized a journey beyond the mundane world, while the wide platform resembles a giant altar. Yet this theory has a major flaw. Etruscan altars were typically located near settlements or attached to temples. The fact that Bomarzo sits deep in an isolated forest leads many scholars to suspect that if it truly was a ritual site, it was not meant for the public, but reserved for a very small, secluded group performing secret or esoteric rites. Another line of interpretation focuses on the possibility that Bomarzo functioned as an astronomical structure. Certain channels and stair alignments seem to correspond with the sunrise on the spring equinox or the sunset on the summer solstice. If these alignments were intentional, the pyramid may have served as a tool for marking celestial events, helping determine agricultural cycles or ritual timing. However, lacking consistent and verifiable evidence, this hypothesis remains inconclusive. The third and most controversial theory argues that Bomarzo was the site of initiation rites, a form of secret ceremony seen in many ancient cultures. The area's isolation, the elevation of the structure, the symbolic journey suggested by the stairs, and the niches that might once have held sacred items all align with the characteristics of transformative spiritual rituals reserved for priests or elite warriors. Some researchers even suggest that the small stone channels may have been used to guide liquids, pure water, sacred wine, or even sacrificial blood. Yet without physical traces, all such ideas remain speculative. This ambiguity has led many scholars to acknowledge that the Bomazo pyramid seems to operate outside every symbolic system previously known in Etruscan culture. No inscriptions, no decorative motifs, no identifying markers. The three major theories, religious, astronomical, and initiatory, are all plausible, yet each lacks decisive evidence. And perhaps it is precisely this void, this absence of a clear answer, that makes the mystery of Bomazo so compelling and irresistible. But regardless of the theory, the greatest mystery remains: why is there not a single inscription? The Etruscans were meticulous record keepers with a well-developed writing system. Yet a monument this large bears no markings at all. This has led many scholars to believe the pyramid's purpose may have been intentionally kept secret, preserved only through oral transmission within a small group, never recorded in writing. Some modern researchers even question whether the structure was created by a peripheral religious sect within Etruscan society, a small group separate from major cities. Or perhaps Bomazo was once part of a much larger ritual complex, the rest of which has been destroyed or erased by time. Archaeologists have found scattered stones and smaller ritual platforms nearby, suggesting the area could once have been an extensive ceremonial zone rather than a single monument. However, no evidence is clear enough to reconstruct the full picture. The silence of Bomazo, no inscriptions, no statues, no traces of habitation, creates a void that renders all attempts at interpretation extremely difficult. Despite decades of research, archaeologists still cannot determine its true purpose with certainty. The only definitive conclusion is that the structure was crafted with remarkable stoneworking skill. The edges remain sharp, the surfaces unusually flat, and the steps perfectly uniform, clear proof that the Etruscans invested significant labor into its construction. A monument requiring such effort cannot be meaningless, but its meaning is lost to history. Today, those who climb its ancient steps often describe feeling as though they are entering another world, a world of beliefs and rituals entirely different from our current understanding of the Etruscans and the ancient Mediterranean. The Bomazo pyramid stands quietly in the forest, reminding us that history has never been fully understood, that ancient civilizations still hold secrets beyond our reach, and that we modern humans have only touched the surface of the past. Perhaps what makes this structure most captivating is precisely the lack of answers. There are no texts, no records, no definitive clues. It is like a door locked more than 2 millennia ago, its key lost forever. Each theory is merely an attempt to interpret a shadow of a long-forgotten ritual. The ambiguity itself breathes life into the mystery, making Bomazo one of Europe's most intriguing archaeological sites for those fascinated by ancient history and unsolved enigmas. If one day a shard of pottery, an inscription, or a related document is found, the mystery may finally unfold. But until then, the Etruscan pyramid of Bomazo remains an unanswered question, a monument standing at the crossroads of science, religion, and ancient mystery. Amid the arid deserts of northwestern New Mexico, where red sandstone cliffs bear the scars of time, lies one of the greatest enigmas of North American archaeology, the Chaco Canyon alignments. In a place where long-term survival seems nearly impossible, the Chaco people, a culture with no metal, no wheels, and no writing system, built an enormous architectural complex with astronomical precision that still astonishes modern scholars. The Great House's multi-story structures, containing hundreds of rooms, were not built randomly. They were aligned along mysterious axes, connecting the sun, the moon, and the horizon. Roads stretch for dozens of kilometers in unnaturally straight lines, continuing without deviation, even when terrain becomes uneven. And all of these features revolve around astronomical points so important that even a small deviation of a few degrees would render the entire system meaningless. What do you think truly caused the Chaco people to build and then abandon such a massive astronomical system? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Even without metal wheels or any form of writing, the Chaco people created an astronomical observation system so sophisticated that it surpassed many contemporary civilizations. Using only simple tools made from stone, bone, and wood, they built massive structures, precisely aligned with solar cycles, and most remarkably, the Moon's 18.6-year cycle, a pattern so rare that only a handful of ancient cultures ever identified it. The presence of light markers, orientation axes, and synchronized architectural layouts among the great houses suggests that such knowledge could not have emerged overnight. It must have been the result of countless generations observing the sky, accumulating insights, and passing them down systematically within their society. This striking contrast between their simple technology and their extraordinarily advanced astronomical understanding continues to puzzle modern scholars who still ask, how did they achieve it? At the summit of Fajada Butte, the mystery reaches its most refined form, with the sun dagger, a natural light phenomenon that the Chaco people transformed into a cosmic timepiece. On the summer solstice, precisely when the sun reaches its highest point, a thin beam of light strikes the exact center of a spiral carved into the stone. By the winter solstice, two separate beams appear, framing the spiral as if marking the sun's symbolic rebirth. Even more astonishing, the Moon's 18.6-year cycle is recorded through its own distinct light patterns. No one knows how the Chaco people discovered and calibrated this phenomenon, but it is clear they possessed an extraordinarily deep understanding of celestial motion. Viewed as a whole, Chaco Canyon resembles a massive astronomical observatory. From above, the great houses, though separated by many kilometers, align with invisible linear axes that reflect astronomical events. Some buildings form astronomical triangles, some align with lunar standstills, and others point toward the exact point where the sun emerges over the horizon during the winter solstice. Every detail appears intentional, even if its deeper purpose remains out of reach for modern scholars. But the greatest mystery of Chaco Canyon has nothing to do with how it was built. It is the question no one has ever answered. Why did the Chaco people, who invested centuries of labor into building this immense astronomical complex, suddenly abandon it? Around the years 1130 to 1150, Chaco Canyon experienced one of the most inexplicable events in North American history. The entire complex was abandoned almost simultaneously. This sudden departure has long puzzled archaeologists because it contradicts every logical pattern of how a major cultural and astronomical center should develop and be maintained. A society sophisticated enough to track the Moon's 18.6-year cycle and persistent enough to build massive great houses over many generations vanished without leaving a single clear trace. The climate hypothesis is often mentioned first. The early 12th century drought is believed to have made sustaining a large population impossible. Yet this explanation quickly reveals its flaws, as nearby communities endured the same harsh conditions and continued to survive. Meanwhile, in Chaco Canyon, the structures were not only abandoned, but also never reused, an extremely unusual phenomenon for Pueblo culture, which is well known for reoccupying and modifying older sites. The warfare hypothesis is even less convincing, as no evidence of violence exists, no burnt layers, no destroyed defensive walls, no abandoned weapons. If a major conflict had occurred, it would have been an impossibly clean war. Some scholars argue that Chaco Canyon became too centralized in religious or political power, leading to internal social breakdown. However, even this theory fails to explain Why descendant groups never returned to use the monumental infrastructure their ancestors had built. All of this leads to a difficult-to-dismiss paradox. Chaco Canyon appears not only abandoned, but sealed, as if the Chaco people left for a reason so significant, so ritualistic or symbolic, that the entire region became a place no one was meant to return to. The fact that the complex remained untouched for centuries only deepens its status as one of the most profound mysteries in North American archaeology. Many archaeologists consider this the most crucial question. Chaco Canyon was not simply abandoned, it was frozen in time. No later group occupied it, adapted it, or built over it. There are no transitional phases. It is as if the Chaco people left through a deliberate collective decision, not through panic or force. A bold theory suggests Chaco Canyon was a ceremonial astronomical hub, where the Chacoans gathered cyclically according to long-term lunar and solar events. When religious systems changed, or when a major astronomical cycle, such as the 18.6-year lunar standstill, ended, they may have left because its spiritual purpose had been fulfilled. But this remains speculation. There is no direct evidence of a final ritual or cultural event significant enough to justify abandoning an entire monumental complex. Another theory, viewed sociologically, proposes that Chaco Canyon required massive resource coordination. When regional supply networks shifted or populations dispersed, Chaco could no longer function. When the social engine stopped, all astronomical activities became obsolete. Yet even so, the puzzling fact remains no part of the complex was ever reused. What sets Chaco Canyon apart from other ancient centers is this total silence. No written records, no detailed tribal legends, no consistent religious narratives. Modern Pueblo peoples preserve stories linked to their Chaco ancestors, but none describe Chaco Canyon as a permanent city. It is almost always portrayed as a ritual destination, a place to visit, not a place to live. This suggests that Chaco Canyon may have been built for extraordinary events and abandoned once those events no longer mattered. Many mysteries continue to surround Chaco Canyon, making it one of the most challenging puzzles in North American archaeology. Who designed the entire astronomical layout that stretches across the canyon with alignment axes linking the sun, the moon, and the horizon? How could they track the moon's 18.6-year cycle without any writing system or recording tools? Why do the perfectly straight roads extending for dozens of kilometers lead to places that seem to serve no clear purpose? And most importantly, what compelled the Chaco people to leave and never return, abandoning a monumental complex to lie silently in the desert? These questions have hovered for centuries, reminding us that some ancient knowledge may lie far beyond the reach of modern understanding. Standing in Chaco Canyon today, one feels a strange stillness. Not merely the silence of the desert, but the presence of a place that once mattered deeply, yet whose meaning vanished along with those who built it. The astronomical alignments remain fixed and unmoving, as though waiting for someone to reactivate the knowledge they once embodied. Perhaps the Chacoans left because of natural disaster. Perhaps because of ritual change. Perhaps because their social networks collapsed. But it is also possible, and this is what makes Chaco Canyon so compelling, that they left for a reason we are not yet capable of understanding. Whatever the truth, the Chaco Canyon alignments stand as a reminder that ancient knowledge did not always require metal writing or advanced tools, yet could reach levels of sophistication the modern world still struggles to replicate. And the sudden disappearance of the people who built it only deepens the mystery. In the scorching deserts of Syria, where nothing should exist except burning winds and endless sand, archaeologists uncovered something that stunned the entire world. an ancient city that seemed to appear almost out of nowhere. No cultural layers beneath it, no gradual stages of growth, no earlier village, only a fully formed, meticulously planned city rising from the desert as if it had been placed there by an invisible hand. And it is this unnatural level of completeness that sends chills through the scientific community. Massive defensive walls, a palace with more than 1,000 rooms, a sophisticated irrigation network, and precisely aligned temples, all present without a single clue pointing to their origins. So who built Mari? What kind of force possessed the knowledge, organization, and power to construct an entire city in one of the harshest environments of ancient Mesopotamia? And why choose this particular land, one that offered no obvious geographical or economic advantage? Mari is more than a ruin. It is a question without an answer, a city born too quickly, too perfectly, and vanished just as abruptly. What do you think explains Mari's sudden and fully formed appearance in the desert? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The royal palace of Mari was not only massive, but deliberately overwhelming in its design. With more than 1,000 interconnected rooms, linked by twisting corridors, the entire structure feels more like a ritual mechanism than a residential complex. Movement pathways were arranged in fixed sequences, forcing anyone entering the palace to pass through predetermined spaces as if the ancient builders wanted to guide the behavior and emotions of those participating in ceremonial events. Many rooms show no traces of use, no objects, no markings, leaving their true function completely unknown. Some areas can only be accessed through narrow hidden passages within the walls, suggesting secret activities or restricted zones reserved for certain ranks of society. Even after nearly a century of excavation, archaeologists still cannot decode how this palace truly operated, how a civilization that appeared so suddenly could create such an intricate, intentional, and ritual-focused architectural masterpiece. The frescoes inside the Palace of Mari are among the most perplexing discoveries archaeologists have encountered. In a Mesopotamian world typically defined by earthy tones and simplified geometric forms, Mari stands apart, with walls covered in unusually vibrant colors, dynamic compositions, and a mastery of light and shadow far ahead of its time. Many scenes depict enigmatic rituals in which a central figure appears to receive some form of sacred power from the gods, yet the symbols surrounding them do not match any known religious system, leaving scholars unable to decode their true meaning. Even more astonishing is the preservation of these paintings. After thousands of years, their colors remain vivid, uncracked, and unfaded, as if crafted with a technique we still cannot replicate today. And the strangest detail of all this distinctive artistic style emerges fully formed, with no developmental stages, no precedents, no experimental versions, no artistic prehistory. It is as if an entire artistic tradition appeared instantly and vanished just as abruptly with the fall of Mari. What astonishes archaeologists most about Mari is how the city sustained life in such an arid desert through an irrigation system of remarkable sophistication. Its canals were arranged in a calculated network, channeling water from distant sources to the urban center with minimal loss, requiring a deep understanding of terrain gradients, water flow behavior, and hydraulic pressure. Large reservoirs were constructed with substantial capacity, paired with regulating gates that distributed water across residential districts and agricultural zones. But the true mystery lies in the absence of any developmental stages. There are no experimental models, no smaller prototypes, no evidence that Mari borrowed this engineering knowledge from another civilization. The irrigation system appears fully formed, operating with a stability capable of supporting tens of thousands of people. It leaves experts asking, how could a city that appeared suddenly possess such advanced engineering from the very beginning? And where did they learn this knowledge? Was it a technological tradition that history simply never recorded? Inside the palace, researchers uncovered over 20,000 clay tablets, forming a massive archive of political, economic, and religious activity across Mesopotamia. These documents show that Mari was a major hub of diplomacy and trade, connecting regions from Anatolia to Babylon. Yet the most intriguing entries describe the presence of a mysterious group of people coming from the direction of the sunset. They were portrayed as large, organized communities capable of shifting regional power. To this day, scholars cannot identify their ethnicity. No linguistic parallels, no physical descriptions, no matching archaeological evidence. They remain a vague shadow in the historical record. The religious rituals of Mari remain one of the most perplexing aspects for archaeologists. Clay tablets describe ceremonies conducted in complete darkness, where priests attempted to communicate with the gods without any external light or sound. Some texts even recount priests walking across burning coals or open flames without injury, a phenomenon that makes it difficult for scholars to determine what was literal practice and what was symbolic expression. What stands out most is that these rituals do not appear in any other Mesopotamian religious tradition, suggesting that Mari followed a distinct spiritual system isolated from surrounding cultures. Despite efforts to interpret them through symbolism and comparative religion, researchers still cannot identify the ultimate purpose of these ceremonies, whether they served to reinforce religious authority, provide spiritual healing, or belonged to an entire doctrinal system that vanished completely with Mari's collapse. The fall of Mari is one of the most puzzling events in Mesopotamian history. Records state that Hammurabi destroyed the city, yet what confuses archaeologists is not Mari's defeat, but the speed at which it vanished. There are no signs of military preparations, no reinforced defenses, no evidence of increased food storage measures any major city would take when facing imminent war. The clay tablets mention no internal division, no economic collapse, no social unrest. On the contrary, Mari appeared to be operating with administrative and commercial stability right before its destruction. This unnatural silence preceding the catastrophe has led scholars to wonder, was the city taken completely by surprise, or had some prior event weakened Mari without leaving any archaeological trace? Even more striking is how cleanly Mari disappeared, as if a once thriving center of power was erased from the historical map in a single moment. Mari's geographic location has long puzzled archaeologists because it lacks the advantages typically associated with ancient centers of power. The city does not lie directly on the Euphrates River, like Babylon or Ur, nor does it sit on fertile land suitable for agriculture. Instead, Mari occupies a semi-arid region where, by modern logic, sustaining a large urban population should have been extremely difficult. Yet for centuries, Mari functioned as a crucial hub of trade, religion, and political influence across Mesopotamia. This raises a compelling question: what made such an off-route location so important? Was there an ancient trade network that later disappeared, or a once valuable resource now lost to time? Or did Mari possess a strategic advantage that modern archaeology has not yet uncovered? All these factors make Mari one of the greatest enigmas of ancient Mesopotamia. A city with no early cultural layers, yet appearing completely developed walls, palaces, water systems, art, religion, and administration. Then it vanished, just as quickly, leaving a void in history, a void that even thousands of tablets cannot fill. Mari is not just a ruin. It is a reminder that human history still contains shadows, unwritten chapters, and cities like Mari that stand as traces of stories we have yet to understand. In the arid reaches of the Upper Nile, where the desert heat can erase every trace of time, there once stood a kingdom so powerful that even ancient Egypt had to tread carefully. It was not a small civilization swallowed by greater empires, but Kerma, the ancient capital of Nubia, a rising center of power that emerged more than 4 millennia ago. Kerma controlled trade warfare rituals, and the golden routes stretching deep into Africa becoming the most formidable rival the pharaohs ever faced. Yet here lies the paradox. Although Kerma stood shoulder to shoulder with Egypt cooperating, competing and clashing for thousands of years, it was later veiled by history in a strange and silent fog. What remains today are only scattered traces. The towering Defufa structures, standing like monoliths defying time, and the statues of pharaohs buried face down as if someone intended to strip them of their sacred authority. How could a kingdom once so powerful fade into obscurity so quickly that archaeologists still argue about it to this day? What truly happened to Kerma, a civilization that once glowed brightly on the map of ancient Africa, only to vanish suddenly as if erased from history itself? What do you think truly caused Kerma to disappear so suddenly? Share your theory in the comments below. The three Defufa structures of Kerma are not merely massive mud brick blocks standing alone in the Nubian desert. They are evidence of an architectural mastery far ahead of their time. With multi-story heights and walls nearly a meter thick, the Defufa have survived more than 4 millennia under the scorching heat without collapsing, something nearly impossible for ordinary mud brick construction. What puzzles archaeologists most is their true purpose. From the outside, they resemble ceremonial centers, yet their interiors are far too complex: winding corridors, hidden chambers, elevated platforms, and layered walls suggesting astronomical or administrative functions. Unlike Egyptian pyramids, which follow clear symbolic designs, the Defufa possess a completely different character, as if the people of Kerma were applying an architectural logic that we still cannot decipher today. Every brick, every layer of wall raises the same enduring question: were the Defufa built for religion, for political authority, or for a purpose the modern world has never imagined? The vast cemetery surrounding Kerma is one of the largest and most enigmatic burial complexes in ancient Africa, clearly reflecting the depth of this kingdom's beliefs and its intricate social hierarchy. Many tombs contain dozens of bodies, laid together, believed to be servants or warriors sacrificed to accompany their king into the afterlife. What fuels ongoing debate is that most of these individuals appear to have died at nearly the same time, indicating these were not natural deaths. The abundance of grave goods, gold turquoise weapons, and finely crafted pottery reveals another layer of meaning. The people of Kerma saw death as a ceremonial extension of power, a stage where wealth continued to be displayed long after the physical body had returned to the sands. But the stark contrast between tombs, some overflowing with luxury, others almost empty, raises difficult questions. Was Kerma's social stratification far more complex than previously believed, or did internal upheavals cause rapid shifts in status? And more importantly, what compelled them to maintain a funerary tradition that was both reverent and deeply unsettling? The relationship between Kerma and Egypt was like a tight-stretched cord that lasted for more than a millennium, at times cooperative, at other times fiercely confrontational. Kerma controlled the gold supply, a resource essential to sustaining the power of the pharaohs, and held the trade routes that reached deep into the African continent. Because of this, they were not only trading partners, but also a major strategic threat. There were periods when Kerma seized Egyptian border fortresses, forcing the northern kingdom to maintain a constant defensive military presence. Yet the paradox lies in the archaeological evidence. In many sites, Kerma's kings used Egyptian objects and even imitated the artistic style of the pharaohs. This blend of respect, admiration, rivalry, and hostility created a diplomatic relationship full of contradictions, revealing that the two civilizations understood and influenced each other far more deeply than the surviving historical records suggest. One shocking discovery was 7 statues of Egyptian New Kingdom pharaohs found in Kerma, but all buried face down in the ground. This arrangement seems intentionally designed to insult the pharaoh's authority, stripping away the sacredness of their royal image. But were they war trophies, or part of a political ritual asserting the power of the Nubian kingdom? no one knows for certain. Despite its former glory, a far greater mystery surrounds the ruins of Kerma. This civilization vanished with abnormal speed. Around 1500 BCE, Egypt conquered Nubia. In theory, Kerma fell through the military power. But the problem is, archaeological evidence does not show signs of a massive battle. No citywide burn layers, no complete destruction typical of fallen empires. Instead, many areas of Kerma appear to have been abandoned suddenly, as if the people left within a short period of time. Pottery was left unfinished, living spaces show no signs of looting, and many tombs were never completed. This has led archaeologists to question whether Kerma was truly erased by Egypt or whether its decline originated from internal events. The downfall of Kerma remains one of the greatest mysteries in the history of Northeast Africa, and numerous hypotheses have been proposed to explain why a once powerful kingdom vanished so abruptly. Some scholars believe that severe climatic fluctuations altered the flow and water levels of the Nile, plunging agriculture, the lifeline of the kingdom, into a prolonged crisis. In addition, disruptions along the lucrative gold trade routes, a strategic resource that had long sustained Kerma's prosperity, may have triggered a rapid economic collapse, weakening central authority. Other theories turn inward, suggesting that internal court conflicts, power struggles, succession disputes, or even coups could have fractured a political structure that had remained stable for centuries. Archaeological evidence also hints at the possibility of a widespread epidemic that drastically reduced the population, leaving the society without the manpower needed to maintain its administrative, military, and religious systems. Taken together, these factors paint a clearer picture. Kerma did not fall due to a single cause, but likely because multiple forces, environmental, economic, political, and demographic, converged into a perfect storm that swept away an entire civilization within just a few generations. But the most puzzling aspect is the speed of the collapse. Kerma, a kingdom that existed for thousands of years, nearly disappeared within a few generations. The transition was too fast, too quiet, and the Kerma culture blended into Egypt's with almost no transitional traces. The Defufa structures were left behind, the cemeteries ceased operation, and the once bustling city became ruins in the desert. Today, as archaeologists continue excavating the area, new evidence only makes the picture more unclear. Some architectural traces suggest that Kerma was far larger than what has been uncovered, but most of it remains buried beneath the sand. This raises a haunting question. Have we only witnessed the visible remnants of a civilization that history deliberately obscured? Could there be cities, temples, or fortresses of Kerma, still undiscovered pieces that might finally explain why one of Africa's greatest ancient powers vanished almost without a trace? The ruins of Kerma today are more than the remains of a lost kingdom. They are a reminder that ancient history can be rewritten, shaped by the civilizations that prevailed, and that sometimes the greatest secrets lie in the empty spaces they leave behind. In the ancient valleys of Burgundy, France, where rivers once pulsed like the lifeblood of Europe during the Iron Age, a colossal mystery rose from the earth, one that no history book ever prepared us for. The Vix crater, a bronze vessel as tall as an adult and heavier than an armored warrior, was uncovered inside an untouched burial chamber. But what truly stunned archaeologists was not just its impossible size. Lying right beside this magnificent Greek artifact was the skeleton of a woman, not a warrior, not a queen, not someone with any recorded sign of power, and yet she possessed a treasure that even great civilizations could barely obtain. More than 70 years after its discovery, the mystery has not faded, because the greatest question remains unanswered. Who was the woman buried beside this colossal vessel? What do you think truly explains who she was? Share your theory in the comments below. The mystery of Vix begins with the extraordinary artifact placed inside the burial chamber, a colossal bronze crater, nearly 1.67 meters tall and weighing more than 200 kilograms, far surpassing every known standard of ritual vessels in the ancient world. Its immense size forces archaeologists to acknowledge that the Celts of this era did not possess metallurgical skills advanced enough to cast such a massive, seamless object. The gorgon-shaped handles, crafted in pure Greek style, revealed that it came from a master workshop located more than 1,000 kilometers from Vix. This raises a troubling question: how could a treasure so refined, something only Greek elites could hope to own, end up in the tomb of a Celtic woman? And more importantly, what kind of power or status justified placing this symbol of authority and ceremony beside someone who left no trace in recorded history? Hidden at the heart of the burial lies the greatest mystery of all. Who exactly was the woman resting beside this colossal vessel? Her remains reveal a woman around 30 years old, bearing no signs of violence, no wounds of war, no marks of sacrifice. Yet the grave goods buried with her point to a status far beyond that of an ordinary person. Finely crafted gold jewelry, a full chariot, high-grade ritual items, and above all, the massive crater, an object even the most powerful lords of ancient Europe could hardly possess. Her placement in a large tomb, untouched for more than 2.5 millennia, reflects the extraordinary reverence her community held for her. And yet the most perplexing fact remains: no historical text, legend, or genealogy ever mentions her name. A woman powerful enough to own a Greek masterpiece, yet completely absent from the historical record, this paradox continues to puzzle archaeologists to this day. To uncover the mysterious identity of the woman from Vix, scholars have proposed several theories, each opening a fascinating yet contradictory path of speculation. Many archaeologists believe she may have been a tribal chieftain, the leader of a powerful Celtic community capable of conducting direct trade with Greek city-states. Others argue that she was a high priestess responsible for sacred rituals involving wine, a deeply spiritual element in Celtic society. The decision to bury the massive crater with her may symbolize the ritual authority she once held. Yet the paradox remains: within the tomb, there is no clear evidence or object directly associated with religious duties. This absence leaves every theory, no matter how compelling, suspended in uncertainty, and her true identity remains shrouded in the fog of history. A bolder theory suggests that the colossal crater was not merely a traded item, but evidence of a political alliance or diplomatic marriage between Celtic nobility and a Greek city-state. If this were true, the woman of Vix may have played a crucial role in linking two worlds that seemed completely separate. However, this idea immediately encounters a major contradiction. If such a relationship truly existed, why is there no additional Greek artifact found in the region? Why does only one crater exist, and one of a size unmatched anywhere in the ancient world? If it was indeed a gift for an exceptional figure, what convinced the Greeks to honor a woman from a distant land rather than a warlord or a king? All these questions lead to a single conclusion: the true status of the Lady of Vix appears far greater than what archaeology can currently explain. It is not only the woman's identity that astonishes archaeologists. The fact that her tomb remained completely intact for more than 25 centuries is itself a baffling mystery. While surrounding areas were repeatedly dug up and looted throughout different historical periods, her burial site was never disturbed, as if protected by an invisible barrier. Some scholars believe the tomb's location was chosen with remarkable precision, hidden within the natural landscape so effectively that grave robbers simply could not detect it. Others speculate that the site may once have been associated with sacred fear-inducing rituals that deterred intruders. Yet the problem is clear: there is no evidence whatsoever of protective walls, magical inscriptions, or defensive structures. What kept this tomb safe for millennia? Pure luck? Or did the woman buried within possess a reputation so powerful that no one dared to touch her resting place? Or perhaps there are still elements history has yet to reveal. The crater itself is an independent mystery, astonishing archaeologists with a level of craftsmanship far beyond its time. Its intricate decorative motifs, gorgon-shaped handles clearly rooted in Greek style, and a seamless bronze body all point to the hands of exceptional metalworking masters. Yet the most perplexing aspect lies in its absolute uniqueness. No other crater of comparable size exists, nor any smaller versions, nor any similar artifact found in either Greek or Celtic territories. If it was created for a specific ritual, why is there no additional evidence of such a ceremony? And if it was meant to symbolize supreme authority, then what title or power must the Lady of Vix have held to deserve a treasure unlike anything else in the ancient world? To uncover her identity, archaeologists have examined every possible detail: the tomb's layout, the grave goods, the chariot remains, her body's placement, and the selection of objects. Yet each clue produces more questions than answers. She was not a warrior. There is no evidence that she was a priestess. It is unclear whether she ruled a territory or served as a mediator between cultures. All we know for certain is this: she was honored enough that her people chose to bury with her one of the most extraordinary treasures in ancient European history. Today, the Vix crater remains a unique artifact not only for its massive size, but because it reflects a historical chapter that was never fully recorded. It speaks of a time when ancient civilizations interacted in ways that written history does not preserve. And at the center of that story stands the silhouette of a woman who transcended her era to become the embodiment of an unsolved mystery. Who was the Lady of Vix? A queen, a priestess, a political ambassador bridging two worlds, or a representative of a forgotten form of power that vanished from human history? To this day, no one can say for sure. And perhaps that silence, the complete absence of her identity, is what gives the mystery of the Vix crater its enduring allure. High on the wind-carved hills of Iran stands a place unlike any other on Earth, a stone circle where the dead were never buried, never burned, and never allowed to touch the sacred ground. For over 2,000 years, followers of the Zoroastrian faith carried their departed to these mountaintop towers, believing that the human body, once emptied of its soul, became a dangerous impurity capable of poisoning earth, water, fire, and air. So they chose a different path. They built vast circular platforms in the sky, known as Dakma, the Towers of Silence, where bodies were surrendered to the vultures in a ritual both haunting and strangely elegant. But behind this stark and ancient practice lies something even darker, something that has puzzled historians for centuries. Mysteries buried not beneath the earth, but left exposed, staring directly into the sun. What do you think truly lies behind this mysterious ritual, faith, nature, or a secret we still haven't uncovered? Share your thoughts below. What astonishes historians, archaeologists, and modern visitors the most is the speed at which a body disappears. Records from 19th century Western explorers describe that a corpse placed on the tower could be completely stripped clean within 2 to 4 hours, a speed that still cannot be fully explained today. Vultures can indeed tear flesh quickly, but this rate far exceeds what is normally observed in nature. What exactly happened on these towers? Was it due to the hot, dry climate of the Iranian plateau, the power of local scavenger birds? Or was there a spiritual element that modern science cannot grasp? No one knows for certain. Many scientists believe the 19th century accounts may have been exaggerated, but multiple independent sources, including Persian scholars, reported similarly astonishing speeds. Some even claimed they had only turned away briefly to speak with someone, and when they looked back, the body had already changed drastically, leaving only white bones behind. This phenomenon, despite numerous hypotheses, remains one of the unsolved mysteries of the Tower of Silence. The structure of the Tower of Silence is far more than a circular platform for exposing the dead. It is an ancient engineering system so sophisticated that modern archaeologists are still left questioning how it was created. Despite the absence of blueprints or written instructions, ancient Zoroastrians managed to build their dakma on elevated windswept hills, ensuring that the smell of decay would never drift into nearby settlements. Each tower was shaped into a perfect circle, a symbol of cosmic order, with the surface divided into 3 distinct concentric rings, the outer ring for men, the middle for women, and the innermost for children, reflecting a ritualized hierarchy in death according to their faith. At the very center lay a deep cylindrical pit, where sun-bleached bones were gathered after sufficient exposure. Even more astonishing was the underground drainage system. Below, rainwater would seep through the bones, washing impurities downward into layers of charcoal and lime, before finally filtering safely into the earth. This mechanism is so advanced that modern experts still cannot explain how ancient builders calculated surface slope absorption rates and water flow direction using nothing but natural observation. No plans, no measuring instruments. Yet these structures functioned flawlessly for centuries, making them one of the most remarkable architectural mysteries of ancient Iran. The true age of the Tower of Silence is another major mystery. No one knows exactly when the first towers were built. Some researchers estimate that sky burial rituals may have begun more than 3,000 years ago, but there is no direct archaeological evidence confirming this. The towers still standing in Iran and India share striking similarities, despite being separated by thousands of kilometers circular structures, 3 concentric rings, underground drainage, and placement atop hills. How could such a standardized design appear in distant regions with no surviving written guidelines? This suggests that the tradition spread very early through oral transmission, possibly originating from an ancient Zoroastrian community that has since vanished from recorded history. The name Tower of Silence was given by European scholars in the 19th century. It accurately captures the eerie stillness one feels when approaching these towers. No human voices, few animal sounds, only the constant sweep of wind across stone. Some acoustic researchers believe that the circular structure and elevation may produce effects that disperse sound more quickly than usual, creating a sensation of absolute silence. Ancient Zoroastrians believed the tower to be the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead, where the soul separates from the body before crossing the mythical Chinvat Bridge, the Bridge of Judgment. Yet just like many aspects of their faith, the origins of this belief were never recorded in any surviving text. Most details were passed down orally, making it impossible for modern scholars to pinpoint when these ideas first emerged. Another major mystery lies in how the Zoroastrians chose the locations for their towers of silence. Even though no ancient documents or measuring instruments have ever been found, the oldest dakma consistently appear on hilltops visible from all directions, completely isolated from settlements, yet close enough for the living to reach when needed. This has led researchers to believe that ancient Zoroastrians possessed an astonishingly precise method of evaluating terrain, possibly based on wind patterns, the sun's movement, natural elevation, or oral rules that have since disappeared. Yet the exact way they identified ideal locations remains entirely unknown. No tools, no written guidelines, no standardized system. All that remains are the towers standing tall across the Iranian landscape, silent proof that the ancients understood nature in ways we still cannot fully decipher. Sky burial rituals at the Tower of Silence gradually disappeared in the 20th century, when Iran introduced public health laws banning the use of dakma. However, many stories claim that in remote desert regions, small Zoroastrian communities continued performing the ritual in secret. There are no official records, no photos, only whispered accounts within the community, adding even more mystery to the Tower of Silence. Yet no matter whether you examine the Tower of Silence through the lens of religion, archaeology, or biology, the greatest mystery remains the speed of decomposition. No builders left instructions, no priests explained the principle, no explorers offered a complete explanation. All we know is that on the windy hilltops of Iran, within those silent stone circles, a strange phenomenon persisted for centuries. A human body could vanish almost entirely in just a few hours, leaving behind questions no one has been able to answer. High above a winding river valley surrounded by dense German forests, where fog moves like a living creature, Eltz Castle stands proud, majestic, untouched, and impossibly timeless. Travelers see a fairy tale fortress. Historians see a medieval masterpiece. But beneath its polished beauty lies a truth almost no one notices: the stones under the castle, the very foundation holding this iconic structure, may be centuries, even millennia, older than Eltz Castle itself. For years, archaeologists admired the 12th century towers, halls, and battlements. But the real story, the unsettling story, was always hiding below their feet. A story told not by documents or legends, but by ancient stones, weathered cuts, and construction techniques that simply should not exist beneath a medieval castle. And when you start following these clues, the ancient origins of Eltz do more than reveal themselves. They challenge everything we thought we knew about the history of this land. Who do you think truly built the ancient foundations beneath Eltz Castle? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What puzzles archaeologists the most is that the foundation stones appear to be far older than the century in which Eltz Castle was built. When examining each block at major load-bearing points, especially where the structure meets the natural rock outcrop and the central platform, they notice features completely inconsistent with medieval construction techniques. These ancient stones have rough, hand-smoothed surfaces, rounded edges, and dry-fit joints, without mortar suggesting a simpler yet remarkably durable method of craftsmanship. Most striking is the deep weathering and distinctive tool marks, indicating they may have been shaped 3 to 5 centuries before the castle ever appeared in historical records. This raises a difficult question. How could a place with no documented settlements or major structures possess a foundation prepared so early, possibly by a culture that left no written trace? The stones themselves seem to whisper the memory of a vanished construction, an ancient footprint long predating the rise of Eltz Castle. The most striking difference between the ancient stones and the medieval ones does not lie in their color or size, but in their tool marks and degree of natural aging. The oldest foundation stones have rough yet evenly flattened surfaces with rounded edges that seem to have endured centuries of weathering. Shallow angled cut marks remain visible, characteristic of primitive metal tools used by Celtic or pre-Roman communities in the Rhine Valley. In contrast, the medieval stones of Eltz are sharply defined, precisely jointed, and bear deep focused chisel marks made by hardened iron tools. This disparity reveals two entirely different construction systems, almost as if they belong to two separate eras. And from here arises the larger question: who carved this ancient foundation when no settlement was ever recorded in this area? Even more intriguing is the way these ancient stones are arranged. They do not appear scattered or random. Instead, they connect tightly to form a continuous foundation layer, as if belonging to a much older structure that once stood long before Eltz Castle was built. Certain sections form distinct right angles, long straight edges, and symmetrical layouts, features commonly seen in Roman fortifications, pre-Roman strongholds, or defensive sites used by Celtic tribes. Yet the medieval architecture of Eltz does not follow this model at all. This contrast suggests that the medieval builders may have constructed their castle on top of an even older foundation, a structure whose true purpose remains hidden in the shadows of history. Many theories have been proposed to explain the origin of this ancient foundation, yet none of them perfectly align with the evidence found on site. Some scholars suggest that the location may once have been a Roman outpost, positioned along the strategic route between the Rhine and Moselle. However, Roman stonework is highly distinctive, with sharp alignment grooves, thin, uniform mortar layers, and clearly stepped joints, features that are entirely absent in the Eltz foundation. Another theory links the structure to the Celtic peoples' indigenous communities who occupied the region before Roman expansion. Their constructions often used rough stones, fitted just tightly enough to endure centuries, typically serving ceremonial or defensive purposes. Yet the lack of characteristic Celtic artifacts leaves this theory unconfirmed. From these fragmented clues, the Eltz foundations appear to belong to an ancient, unidentified structure suspended between two civilizations, yet not fully matching either. What draws researchers' attention most is the bedrock on which the entire castle stands. From a distance, it seems like nothing more than a natural rocky outcrop rising from the valley, but geological surveys reveal something entirely different. Its surface is unnaturally flat, unlike any terrain shaped by natural erosion. Long, straight grooves run east-west. Several step surfaces appear evenly spaced, and some rock edges seem to have been cut at almost perfect right angles, all pointing to signs of large-scale human modification. This suggests the bedrock may have been leveled carved or shaped hundreds, perhaps thousands of years before the Eltz family appeared in historical records. This pre-prepared stone platform raises a profound question: who possessed the skill and motivation to create such a massive foundation in a place with no recorded ancient settlement? This raises a crucial question. Why did medieval builders choose this precise location with an old mysterious foundation? At the time, there were many more convenient flat areas nearby. Yet they chose this very spot, one that already had an ancient platform, as if they knew it had been used before. This has led to a bold hypothesis. Perhaps the Eltz family possessed older records or oral traditions about the site knowledge that has not survived in official history. As archaeologists surveyed the southern and western base of the castle walls, they uncovered numerous small but highly significant traces. Broken pottery shards from different stylistic periods, blackened charcoal streaks buried deep in the soil, and collapsed wall fragments that do not correspond to any known construction phase of the medieval castle. Some pottery pieces resemble the Latinic Celtic culture, others show Roman characteristics, while the charcoal dates to a period much earlier than the 12th century. This mixture of timelines suggests that the Eltz site was reused across multiple eras, each culture leaving behind a faint layer of evidence like lost pages from an ancient book. The discrepancy in stone materials is the key to a larger revelation. Eltz Castle is not the first major structure on this rock. An earlier structure, perhaps a shrine, watchtower, Celtic fort, or ritual site, once stood here before disappearing. Later, medieval builders repurposed the remaining foundation, reinforced it, and built their castle on top, unintentionally sealing away its deeper past. The greatest challenge is that the entire lower area has never been fully excavated, partly because the castle is privately owned, and partly because removing the foundation could endanger the structure. This means most of Eltz's ancient secrets remain hidden untouched beneath layers of stone. Today, visitors admire the fairy tale silhouette of Eltz Castle without realizing they are standing above a foundation that may be thousands of years old, a foundation whose age, visible in every worn edge and ancient surface, quietly poses a question to history: who first built on the Eltz rock, and what became of them? In the barren deserts of Kerman, where nothing seems capable of holding humanity's forgotten secrets, a civilization suddenly rose from the shadows of the past. No warning, no written record, not a single hint in ancient chronicles. It wasn't until the great floods of the year 2002 tore through layers of earth accumulated over millennia that the world first saw what Yeroft had been hiding thousands of exquisitely carved chlorite artifacts so sophisticated they defied imagination. Their emergence struck the archaeological world like a challenge. How could a civilization this mature have never been documented? Why were its symbolic creations, its enigmatic motifs, its uniquely crafted artistic styles buried in silence at the crossroads of Mesopotamia, Iran, and South Asia, without leaving the faintest trace in history? Euroft did not merely appear, it erupted like a storm. A civilization rich in aesthetics and deeply symbolic in spiritual expression, yet intentionally concealed by time itself. And that single moment of uncovering opened the door to one of the greatest mysteries in modern archaeology. What do you think caused a complex civilization like Euroft to rise and then disappear without leaving a single written record? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The greatest debates surrounding Euroft begin with the strange symbols carved onto its stone tablets, seals, and ceremonial objects. They resemble no known writing system. They do not carry the wedge-shaped structure of Sumerian script, the layout of Elamite texts, nor the phonetic pictorial separation common in ancient Eastern scripts. Many of the signs show curved strokes, sharp incisions, and recurring symbolic patterns, suggesting that these may not simply be decorative motifs, but a form of early proto-writing. Some bold scholars even propose that Euroft might possess a writing system older than Mesopotamia itself, though no inscription is long enough to be deciphered. Even so, the presence of such entirely distinct symbols raises a profound question. Could Euroft have been an independent intellectual center where a unique symbolic thinking system emerged and evolved parallel to, or perhaps completely separate from, the major civilizations of its time? Euroft's art is the clearest indication that this was not a small, isolated community, but a culture with a remarkably advanced symbolic mindset. The chlorite stone artifacts discovered there display an extraordinary level of craftsmanship. Every deep incision is clean and deliberate. Every curve is polished with care. Every composition reflects thoughtful, intentional design. Across the stone surfaces, we find fantastical hybrid creatures, serpents with legs, animals combining traits of multiple species, and axe-wielding figures that appear half human, half divine. Alongside these are geometric patterns, layered motifs, and even three-dimensional spatial representations, features extremely rare among contemporary civilizations. Such mastery suggests that Euroft artisans inherited generations of refined techniques supported by highly specialized tools and stoneworking methods far more advanced than previously assumed. Even more intriguing is that many Euroft motifs later appear in Mesopotamian art, prompting scholars to question whether Euroft was not only a creator but also a foundational source of inspiration, helping shape the religious and mythological symbol systems of the ancient Near East. Archaeological remains at Konar Sandal A and B reveal structures belonging to a highly organized community. Yet these do not resemble Mesopotamian temples, step pyramids, or Elamite palaces. This is a type of architecture with no precedent, no replica, no direct comparison. And that makes Euroft even more puzzling. A civilization with its own art symbols and architectural style, yet it left no traces of large cities, no archives, no kings' names, no administrative texts, no monumental cemeteries. Everything appears like a shadow of a once-developed society that history somehow erased. One of the most puzzling aspects of Euroft is the unexpectedly vast trade network revealed through its artifacts. Objects bearing Europe's distinctive artistic style have been found across Central Asia and the Persian Gulf, suggesting that this was not an isolated culture, but possibly a major crossroads linking Mesopotamia, Elam, and even the Indus civilization. What makes this even stranger is that Europe does not lie along any known ancient trade routes. There are no major caravan paths, no resting stations, and no long river routes connecting it to major urban centers. yet their products appear in regions hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. This forces researchers to ask deeper questions. Did Euroft possess some kind of hidden route? Or did they control a forgotten trade system, never recorded in any surviving source, a network of ancient communication now completely lost to time? To this day, the answer remains beyond our reach. The collapse of Euroft stands as the deepest, most persistent mystery that every archaeologist must confront when studying this civilization. Unlike other ancient cultures that left behind traces of war decline or invasion, Euroft disappeared in a strange and almost absolute silence. When researchers surveyed the excavation sites, they found none of the familiar signs: no burnt walls, no scattered arrowheads or weapons, no layers of ash, and no evidence of destroyed fortifications. Nothing suggested that Euroft had endured a military conflict. This effectively eliminates the invasion hypothesis from the start. But silence in archaeology does not necessarily mean silence in nature. Geological studies indicate that the Halil River, the sole lifeline of the Kerman region, may have shifted its course around the mid-2nd millennium before Christ. Such a change could have collapsed the agricultural system, caused severe water shortages, and shattered the entire economy built on farming and trade. Some scientists believe Euroft was strangled by nature itself. Devastating floods, prolonged droughts that rendered the land barren, and climate changes that undermined the population's ability to survive. Yet one thing remains troubling. Even the harshest environmental shifts usually leave evidence of gradual adaptation, not a sudden disappearance, as if erased from the map. Another theory suggests that a large-scale epidemic struck Euroft. However, this does not align with the archaeological record. There are no mass graves, no signs of emergency burial practices, and no cultural layers reflecting widespread mortality. If an epidemic had occurred, we would expect temporary medical structures or dedicated burial zones, yet none have been found. The socio-political collapse theory has also been proposed. Perhaps Euroft experienced internal breakdown, a power shift, or dissolution of its communal structure. But once again, no evidence supports this. There are no signs of violence, no changes in social stratification, and no archaeological traces of large-scale migration. Some scholars even argue that Euroft did not truly vanish, but instead merged into neighboring civilizations. Its artisans, traders, and families may have moved to Elam, Mesopotamia, or the Indus region, carrying their artistic styles and techniques with them. Yet this theory fails to explain the most crucial fact: why is there no transitional cultural layer showing a gradual decline? Why does Euroft's cultural and social life end abruptly like a book, with its second half torn out? What makes Euroft's collapse so haunting is the speed at which it occurred. A civilization with master craftsmen, complex architecture, and a far-reaching trade network should have left behind traces of transformation, such as community contraction changes in building materials or stages of migration. Instead, Euroft's archaeological layers end sharply, as if a stable, thriving community was suddenly switched off within just a few short generations. This eerie break in continuity makes Euroft one of the rare civilizations seemingly erased by time without leaving behind a single clear explanation. The artifacts found, beautiful, intricate, symbolically rich, are merely the tip of an iceberg. They reveal much about Euroft's art, but say almost nothing about its sudden disappearance. And it is precisely this silence that makes Euroft so compelling. It is not just an ancient culture, but a grand, unanswered question of human history, challenging the assumption that civilizations always leave clear traces of decline. Today, Euroft stands as proof that humanity's past still contains vast blank spaces yet to be uncovered. Beneath the dry soil of Kerman may still lie thousands of undiscovered artifacts, inscriptions or ruins that could rewrite our understanding of ancient civilizations. But until those pieces emerge, Giroft remains one of the most enigmatic cultures ever found, standing on the threshold of scientific knowledge while still shrouded in the shadows of unanswered mysteries. We begin at a silent ruin in northern Syria, an ancient temple carved from black basalt, standing alone against the desert wind. For centuries, it was just another forgotten remnant of the Syro-Hittite world, until a discovery at its gates stunned archaeologists everywhere. On the stone threshold lie two colossal footprints, each nearly a meter long, carved with such precision that they look like the literal steps of a giant frozen in time. Not decorations, not symbols scattered at random. They form a path leading straight into the heart of the temple, as if a being of impossible size once walked through its doors. Who was this being meant to represent? A god, a guardian, or did the ancient builders witness something they could not describe? So they carved its footprints instead of its face. For decades, no inscription, no legend, and no text from the region has ever explained these marks. The more researchers search for answers, the deeper the mystery grows. Because Eindara is not a temple you enter, it is a puzzle that steps toward you first. What do you think these two giant footprints were meant to represent? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The footprints at Eindara are nearly 1 meter long, carved deep and clearly enough to make visitors feel as though a giant being once stepped on soft stone before it hardened forever. The footprints do not face outward, but instead face into the temple, as if a god or supernatural being had walked through the gate and into the holiest chamber. The distance between the prints suggests an enormous stride. If it belonged to a real being, it would have stood between 8 and 10 meters tall, far beyond any known creature in human history. Therefore, many theories have emerged. Some suggest they symbolize the goddess Ishtar or Astarte. Some believe they represent the steps of an invisible spirit. Others propose they served as a ritual illusion, symbolizing the arrival of a colossal deity during ceremonies. Yet none of these theories are officially accepted. No ancient text explains the footprints, deepening the mystery even further. What is even more striking is that no other site anywhere in ancient Syria or the broader Mesopotamian region has similar giant footprints. Temples, reliefs, and guardian lions can be found elsewhere, but these footprints appear only at Eindara. This has led scholars to believe the temple may have been dedicated to a very specific deity, one unusually large or symbolically unique. Some scholars argue that instead of sculpting a massive statue, which would be difficult and costly, ancient craftsmen carved footprints to create the illusion that a giant god had physically stood there. As worshippers stepped into the temple and looked down at the tracks, they would feel the invisible presence of the divine. It was a subtle yet powerful artistic method of conveying spiritual belief. The architecture of Eindara became especially controversial when archaeologists discovered that its layout almost perfectly matches the biblical description of Solomon's temple, even though Eindara was built centuries earlier. The temple follows a clear three-part structure: the vestibule, the main hall, and the inner sanctuary, exactly mirroring the ritual blueprint found in ancient Jewish religious texts. Not only the division of space, but also the proportions, the width-to-length ratio of each chamber, and even the ceremonial movement axis show a striking resemblance. This has led scholars to a major question. Did Syro-Hittite architecture directly influence the concept of Solomon's temple, or did both originate from an even older sacred tradition that has now vanished from the historical record? With no inscriptions found at Eindara to provide clarity, the answer remains an empty space, one of the most intriguing, unresolved mysteries in Near Eastern archaeology. The hybrid creature reliefs carved into the walls of Eindara revealed that the temple once belonged to a highly complex symbolic system that no longer survives in any written record. Images of winged lions, sphinx-like figures, guardian spirits with animal limbs and half-human, half-beast forms do not fully match the art of Mesopotamia or the Levant, though they were influenced by both. This blend, yet lack of complete alignment, makes Ain-Dara feel like a cultural crossroads where multiple mythologies converged to create uniquely distinctive forms. Scholars suggest these beings may have served as protectors, ritual guides, or manifestations of supernatural authority, but without textual explanations, their true meaning remains shrouded in the gray zone of archaeology. The material used to build the Ain-Dara temple has long astonished researchers. The entire structure is made from black basalt, a volcanic stone so hard that carving detailed artwork into its surface should have been nearly impossible with the technology of that era. Yet the reliefs here are sharp, smooth, and deeply sculpted, proving that the craftsmen possessed exceptional skill and perhaps specialized tools that archaeology still cannot fully explain. Several stone blocks are fitted using tight joint techniques so precise that a knife blade can barely pass between them, evoking the mysterious megalithic structures found in other parts of the world. The choice of basalt, a material heavy, difficult to quarry, and even harder to transport, suggests that the builders of Ain-Dara sought more than durability. They intended to convey a sense of power, solemnity, and mystery through the very substance of the temple, making it stand out dramatically against the dusty Syrian landscape. The layout of the temple also indicates a very clear ritual pathway. Worshippers would begin at the giant footprints at the entrance, move through the vestibule, then into the main hall, and finally approach the deep inner sanctuary where an altar or statue might once have stood. The rising floor elevation suggests that rituals were performed in levels separating common people, priests, and elite officials. However, no ritual texts have ever been found, leaving scholars with nothing but speculation. On both sides of the entrance, ancient builders once placed giant stone lions and sphinx-like guardians. Some statues lost their heads or were heavily damaged, but old photos and reconstructions reveal they once formed a corridor of guardian beasts protecting the sacred space. This arrangement resembles Hattusa or Carchemish, though Ain-Dara appears even richer in its symbolic imagery. The temple existed from around 1300 years before Christ until about 740 years before Christ, spanning multiple cultural phases: Syro-Hittite, Aramean, and Neo-Assyrian. Yet strangely, no one knows which group built it first. The overlapping cultural layers make the story complex, as if Ain-Dara remained sacred for centuries, regardless of who controlled the region. Sadly, in the year 2018, Ain-Dara was severely damaged by modern warfare. Many reliefs, guardian statues, and even parts of the basalt floor containing the footprints were destroyed. This tragic loss has made further research nearly impossible. Many clues that modern archaeology might have uncovered are now lost forever. And in the end, the greatest mystery remains the giant footprints at the entrance. Not accidental, not random, they were placed at the most important position of the entire structure where everyone had to pass. They were the ancient builder's declaration: a mighty being once walked here. But who was that being? A god, a symbol, or something entirely beyond modern understanding? Ain-Dara still stands damaged but defiant, like a question carved into stone, reminding us that parts of human history remain forever out of reach. Hidden deep within the dense Vindhya forests, where sunlight barely reaches the ground, lies a world seemingly forgotten by time itself. Here, beneath sweeping natural rock canopies that stretch across the landscape like an ancient labyrinth, stands one of the most vivid archives of humanity's evolution: the Bhimbetka rock shelters. More than 750 shelters scattered across layers of ancient hills form a true prehistoric city, a place where early humans lived continuously for over 300,000 years. But what makes Bhimbetka a global enigma is not merely its immense age or the sheer number of caves. It is the ancient paintings that have preserved their colors for tens of thousands of years, as if protected by an invisible hand, shielding them from rain erosion and even the laws of nature. These unfading pigments do more than challenge modern science. They open a question that has haunted archaeologists for decades. Did prehistoric humans know something we still do not understand today? What do you think protects these ancient colors from fading nature-lost knowledge or something else entirely? Share your thoughts below. When one looks at the curved rock walls shaped by ancient geological forces, it feels like stepping into a silent chronicle, where every line, color patch, and trace is a message left behind by ancient people for the future. Bhimbetka spans across the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Chalcolithic, Iron Age, and even historical periods. Very few places on Earth preserve continuous human occupation across so many epochs. This reveals that Bhimbetka was not merely a dwelling place. It was a cultural center where prehistoric communities hunted, gathered, painted, recorded memories, and conveyed their deep beliefs about the world around them. Bhimbetka reveals a world where prehistoric art reached an astonishing level of richness. Its rock walls are covered with vivid paintings depicting ancient life in remarkable detail. Groups of hunters chasing antelopes across open plains, bow-armed warriors moving in formation, ritual dances circling around fire, and everyday activities captured with simple yet striking realism. Remarkably, many paintings portray animals that are now extinct, such as ancient bison, giant deer, and the prehistoric horse, Equus pneumaticus. Even more intriguing, some creatures shown in these artworks do not match any known species, raising the possibility that prehistoric humans witnessed forms of life that modern science has yet to identify. Across the entire Bhimbetka complex, nothing confuses archaeologists more than the mystery of the paintings that have not faded at all, despite enduring open weather for tens of thousands of years. In an unforgiving environment where rock surfaces erode, moss spreads, dust settles, and windborne sand constantly grinds the cliffs, the red, white, and black pigments on many panels remain so vivid they look as if they were painted only a few years ago. The mystery deepens when neighboring paintings show completely different levels of preservation. Some Mesolithic lines remain razor-sharp, while other figures just a few steps away have almost entirely disappeared. Geochemical analyses reveal that ancient artists used hematite kaolin and manganese oxide, common minerals that alone cannot bond to rock surfaces for such an extreme length of time. The missing ingredient in their color mixture is what puzzles modern science. What binding agent did they use? A special type of tree resin, an organic compound that transformed over time into a protective film, or perhaps a chemical reaction that accidentally created a super durable color lock modern laboratories still cannot reproduce. To this day, no hypothesis fully accounts for this impossible longevity, turning the Bhimbetka mystery into a testament to the prehistoric mastery that far exceeds what we once believed our ancestors were capable of. In the effort to explain the extraordinary durability of Bhimbetka's pigments, scientists have proposed numerous hypotheses, yet each contains its own blind spots. Some scholars believe that prehistoric people may have accidentally created a kind of biological binder capable of coating the rock surface with an ultra-resistant film, protecting it from weathering for tens of thousands of years. The idea sounds bold, but the near-impossible longevity of many paintings prevents it from being dismissed. Another group argues that the minerals in Bhimbetka's rocks may have reacted with the pigments, forming a stable inorganic compound, a natural color-locking effect produced under highly specific environmental conditions. But if this were purely a natural process, Why does the phenomenon not occur uniformly across all rock surfaces? Why do paintings located just a few steps apart show completely different levels of fading? This inconsistency forces researchers to consider another possibility. Perhaps different groups of people across different eras used different pigment formulas. The Paleolithic artists may have relied on basic mineral mixtures, while the Mesolithic painters, known for their more refined artistic sensibilities, might have discovered a superior method that protected the artwork from environmental damage. It is precisely this blend of natural factors, human technique, and a touch of chance that makes the Bhimbetka mystery so elusive, yet irresistibly captivating. Regardless of the explanation, one truth remains undeniable. The paintings of Bhimbetka are proof of the extraordinary intelligence and skill of prehistoric humans. They are not merely decorations. They are the expression of a profound cultural world where people live not only to survive, but to communicate, record, and create meaning. And the unfading pigments may have been a deliberate choice to ensure their messages would endure forever. Beyond the mystery of the unfading pigments, Bhimbetka astonishes researchers with paintings rich in spiritual symbolism. Many shelters depict figures with animal heads or hybrid human-animal bodies standing in ritual poses as if performing an ancient ceremony. Archaeologists often interpret them as shamans, intermediaries between the human world and the spiritual realm. Yet some scholars argue these figures might not represent real people at all, but rather deities or mythic beings revered by prehistoric communities. Their presence suggests that Bhimbetka was not merely a dwelling place, but a sacred space shaped by a vivid spiritual life, where beliefs, fears, and imagination were carved into stone, in forms both mysterious and hauntingly evocative. Another famous painting is Boar Rock, showing a gigantic wild boar towering over a human figure. Was this a real ancient species that has since gone extinct? Or was it a symbolic representation of strength, protection, or a ritual guardian? No consensus exists. As researchers delved deeper into the Bhimbetka rock shelters, they began to realize that the site preserves far more than scenes of daily life. It also contains a sophisticated system of abstract symbols. Many rock walls display concentric circles, spirals, repeated hatch marks, and motifs resembling proto-writing, a form of non-verbal communication whose meaning remains undeciphered. Even more astonishing is that several of these symbols closely resemble markings found in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, despite these regions being separated by vast distances and cultures with no known contact. This uncanny similarity raises a bold question. Could prehistoric humanity have once shared a universal symbolic language, an early system for expressing ideas that existed long before formal writing was born? Among all the questions surrounding Bhimbetka, the most debated mystery is this: who actually created the oldest layer of paintings? Many Paleolithic artworks here do not fully align with the known artistic techniques of Homo sapiens in South Asia from the same era. Some lines are overly simplified, while certain compositions show deliberate structure and striking abstraction, making it difficult for researchers to attribute them to any specific human group. This inconsistency has led to a bold hypothesis. Could the creators of these ancient paintings have been Homo erectus, an earlier human species long assumed to possess limited symbolic thinking? If this possibility proves true, it would overturn our traditional understanding of prehistoric cognition and creativity. Yet despite the unanswered questions about their creators, the enduring red, white, and black pigments remain defying time, and reminding us that the minds of our ancient ancestors may have been far more sophisticated than we previously imagined. Hidden deep within the lonely hills of Madhya Pradesh lies a place that should not exist, a stone sanctuary where the Gupta kings carved their power directly into the earth. Here, at Udayagiri, art, astronomy, and ancient ritual collide in ways that defy everything we know about the 5th century. This was no bustling capital, no grand temple city. It was a remote, silent outpost, chosen with unsettling precision, a place where shadows, sunlight, and sacred stone were woven into a single mysterious design. And at its heart stands a masterpiece so impossibly precise, so technically advanced, that modern scholars still struggle to explain it: the colossal Vishnu Varaha relief. A sculpture carved not just into stone, but seemingly into the very boundary between history and myth, challenging the limits of ancient craftsmanship and raising questions that remain unanswered to this day. What do you think is the most mysterious aspect of Udayagiri? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. The decision to make Udayagiri a ceremonial center of the Gupta Empire remains one of its most debated mysteries. The Guptas possessed flourishing cities, dense networks of temples, and well-established political hubs, yet they chose a remote ridge isolated from major trade routes. No surviving ancient text explains this choice, forcing scholars to propose various theories. Perhaps the site lay on a sacred energy convergence point, or the caves were aligned with specific solar positions for astronomical rituals. Some researchers even suspect the existence of a secret royal ceremony performed only at Udayagiri. Still, none of these hypotheses have been proven, leaving this decision as one of the Gupta era's most enduring unanswered questions. The Vishnu Varaha relief at Udayagiri is not only an artistic highlight, but also the focal point of every debate surrounding the technological capabilities of the Gupta artisans. Carved directly into a single rock face, the massive sculpture depicts Vishnu in the form of a boar, lifting the earth from primordial waters. What astonishes researchers is the unusually smooth surface of the stone, along with the refined contours of the body, the elongated snout, the stylized fur, and the delicate facial details. Features far more sophisticated than what would be expected in the 5th century. This level of precision has led many experts to suspect that Gupta craftsmen possessed a carving or polishing technique that has since been lost, as the crude iron tools of that era should not have been capable of producing such perfection. It is this mystery that makes the Varaha relief the most astonishing masterpiece of Udayagiri. When examining the Varaha relief, many scholars quickly realized that the carving techniques of Gupta artisans seem to far exceed what recorded history suggests. The incisions are deep, yet astonishingly smooth, sharp, and consistent, indicating not only an intimate understanding of stone structure, but also an extraordinary level of control over carving force. The anatomy of Varaha is rendered with remarkable precision, tense muscles, forward-shifted weight, and a dynamic posture that makes the figure appear as if it is stepping out of the rock itself. The most perplexing detail for researchers is the depiction of the earth resting on Varaha's tusk, a tiny element carved with micro-level accuracy that would be exceptionally difficult to achieve using the crude hammers and chisels available 15 centuries ago. Some ancient stone specialists even claim the relief shows signs of polishing or surface smoothing performed with a technique completely unknown to us today. This raises a profound question. Did the Gupta craftsmen possess a lost technology, or were ancient stone carving skills far more advanced than we have long assumed? Many researchers believe that to achieve the almost unreal smoothness and precision of the Varaha relief, Gupta artisans must have used a special technique or material far beyond the crude iron tools known from historical records. Some theories suggest they possessed an unusually hard iron alloy, strong enough to cut and polish sandstone with a level of refinement rarely seen in antiquity. When examining the surface of the sculpture, experts identified unusual grinding marks that do not match any known carving or chiseling methods of ancient India. This has led to speculation about the existence of polishing abrasion or stone finishing techniques that have since been completely lost, methods reminiscent of debates surrounding the Egyptian pyramids or the enigmatic stonework of Puma Punku. Although none of these theories have been proven, the Varaha relief remains too smooth, too precise, too sophisticated, prompting scholars to question whether the Gupta craftsmen possessed a technology that modern researchers no longer understand. Beyond its technical brilliance, the Varaha relief is embedded in a rich symbolic context. It represents cosmic renewal and divine power directly tied to Gupta royal rituals where the king was seen as acting under Vishnu's protection. Some ancient chronicles mention the Udayagiri victory ritual, in which the king entered the cave as if descending into the chaotic underworld, then emerged symbolically reborn under the blessing of Vishnu. Yet no existing records describe this ceremony in full, who performed it, how it was conducted, or why it took place specifically in front of the Varaha relief. This absence of documentation makes it one of the great religious enigmas of ancient India. Beyond its artistic and religious significance, Udayagiri astonishes researchers with evidence suggesting it may once have functioned as an ancient astronomical site. Many cave entrances align precisely with the position of the sunrise during the equinox or solstice, a coincidence far too perfect to be accidental. Some caves were shaped so that sunlight would illuminate a single sacred symbol only on specific days of the year, hinting at rituals tied to cosmic cycles. Most notably, Cave 6 contains a ritual light slit, where a beam of sunlight enters at the exact moment the sun reaches its highest point, striking the altar like a divine signal. These features have led many scholars to believe that Udayagiri operated as a solar observatory closely linked to royal ceremonies. Yet without surviving ancient records to confirm it, this hypothesis remains a subject of debate. Scattered throughout Udayagiri are small Brahmi inscriptions, seemingly created by different groups of people across various periods. Some of these markings may simply be traces left by pilgrims, yet many others appear far more technical, hinting at possible connections to ancient astrological or calendrical systems. What puzzles researchers most is the presence of symbols that do not align with any known religious tradition or cultural motif of the Gupta era. A few shapes resemble time markers, while others are entirely unique, never appearing at any other archaeological site in the region. Experts have attempted to decipher them, but no consensus has been reached, adding yet another layer of complexity to the already enigmatic nature of Udayagiri. One of the most puzzling mysteries at Udayagiri is the presence of numerous reliefs abandoned right at the sketching stage. There are no signs of natural disasters, nor any evidence of deliberate human destruction, suggesting that the interruption did not come from external forces, but from the artisans themselves. This raises a series of questions. Was there a political upheaval that forced all activities to stop? Or did a sudden shift in religious practice render the rituals here meaningless? It is also possible that a royal ceremony once performed at Udayagiri was discontinued, causing the entire project to be abruptly forgotten. With no surviving written records, this mystery remains unsolved to this day. Local traditions claim that Udayagiri once contained an underground tunnel connecting the caves to a deep interior shrine. Modern surveys have detected blocked artificial fissures, but no conclusive proof of a tunnel has been found. Some archaeologists believe that if such a tunnel existed, it may have been related to royal rites or Udayagiri's role as a symbolic gateway to the heavens. All these elements, astonishing craftsmanship, mysterious techniques, precise astronomical alignments, and lost royal rituals make Udayagiri one of India's most intriguing archaeological sites. At the heart of it all is the Vishnu Varaha sculpture, a stone masterpiece that challenges modern archaeology and hints at forgotten artistic and technological knowledge. It stands as evidence that human history contains techniques, ideas, and cultural practices that may have vanished long before we ever had the chance to understand them. Hidden within pitch-black tunnels, where only the icy wind whistles through cracks carved by thousands of years, lies a sacred object that very few people on Earth have ever seen with their own eyes. At the very heart of the ancient stone labyrinth of Chavin de Huantar, in the cold, damp breath of the Andes, stands a massive, monolithic pillar, both holy and terrifying, carved by ancient hands with lines so strange they defy every artistic norm of their time. Modern scholars call it the Chavin Lanzon obelisk, but it resembles no obelisk known in human history. Nearly 3 meters tall, confined inside a suffocatingly narrow chamber, this stone pillar feels like the hidden heart of the entire Chavin complex. And what shocks archaeologists the most is the entire temple seems to have been built around it as if it were a cosmic axis, linking humans to a supernatural force far beyond our understanding. What do you think the Chavin Lanzon obelisk truly is? A deity, a ritual instrument, or something even more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When ancient pilgrims entered the pitch-black tunnel system of Chavin, where the darkness seemed to swallow all remaining light, they had to grope their way for hours through the icy stone labyrinth. Every footstep echoed unnervingly from all sides, merging with the sound of shelled trumpets blown by the priests, their vibrations bouncing through countless passages and distorting into deep trembling tones like the voice of a supernatural entity hiding in the shadows. In that suffocating gloom, exhausted and overwhelmed, they suddenly found themselves face to face with a massive stone pillar, the hybrid deity's face emerging with sharp fangs, wide, unblinking eyes, piercing straight into the viewer, and hair carved like serpents in motion. The heavy, dense air made them believe that the god before them was truly coming alive. Many scholars believe that the Chavin priests deliberately crafted an experience that pushed pilgrims beyond ordinary perception by combining geometry, acoustics, and visual artistry at an astonishing level of sophistication. The carvings on the Lanzon are far from simple decoration. They form a carefully arranged system of symbols, interwoven like a secret pictographic language understood only by the priestly elite. As pilgrims moved around the stone pillar, the hybrid deity's face seemed to shift in form, the eyes appearing wider, the mouth curling into a sharper expression, the lines bending subtly to create the illusion that the creature was stirring within the darkness. This shape-shifting effect convinced many that they were standing before a living entity. Although modern scholars describe it as an optical illusion, the fact that a civilization without a written script achieved such artistic mastery continues to astonish archaeologists. Archaeological evidence shows that the Chavin people used San Pedro cactus, a potent hallucinogenic plant, as a central element in their religious rituals. Before being led into the dark, echoing corridors, pilgrims had to undergo a strict purification process, fasting, cleansing their bodies with cold water, and following the precise guidance of the priests. As the hallucinogen gradually took effect, their heartbeat quickened, their breath grew heavy, and under the flickering torchlight, the carvings on the Lanzon began to seem as if they were moving, breathing, watching them in return. The combination of darkness, resonating sound, and altered perception convinced them they were truly standing before a living deity. To the Chavin, the Lanzon was not just an inert block of stone. It was a gateway to the divine realm, a presence silently witnessing the vows and pleas of humanity. One of the most unusual and deliberately crafted aspects of the Lanzon lies in the exact spot where it was placed at the intersection of 3 major sectors of the temple, arranged with a level of precision almost unbelievable for such an ancient civilization. To the Chavin people, these 3 directions symbolized the upper world, where the gods resided, the middle world, the realm of humans, and the underworld, the domain of ancestors and spirits. The Lanzon's shape resembles a spear driven deep into the earth, creating the impression that it pierces all 3 layers of the cosmos. This is why later Spanish chroniclers referred to it as the Lanzon the Spear. In ancient Andean cosmology, the concept of the world axis, the axis mundi, existed very early, representing the link between heaven and earth. The Lanzon embodies all these elements, leading many archaeologists to believe that it was not only the physical center of the temple, but also the spiritual convergence point of the entire Chavan civilization. However, all of these interpretations, no matter how convincing, remain modern hypotheses. Scholars have never fully agreed on the Lanzon's true meaning. Its mystery has fueled debates for decades. No one can say with certainty, which god does it represent? Was it reserved solely for the priestly elite? Was it a ritual tool for inducing altered states? A symbol of authority, a cosmic map, a prophecy, or something entirely outside the framework of religion as we understand it? What makes the Lanzon one of the most mysterious artifacts in South America is the fact that no ancient texts exist to explain its true meaning, as the Chavan people had no written language at all. Everything we understand today is built on assumptions drawn from surviving carvings, architectural layouts, and ritual contexts. Even though researchers have analyzed every curving line etched into the stone, no one has been able to explain why the Chavan intentionally created a design so dependent on visual illusion, placed it in total darkness, or built an entire city around it as if it were a cosmic axis. This absence of clear clues makes the Lanzon both captivating and deeply challenging to every attempt at deciphering its purpose. The greatest question, and the very thing that makes the Lanzon so unsettling, lies in the possibility that everything we are trying to interpret about it may simply be the projection of modern thinking onto an ancient worldview we do not understand at all. Was the Lanzon truly meant to represent a deity? Or is that merely the most convenient explanation for modern minds? Or did it belong to a symbolic system in which divinity, art, hallucination, ritual, and consciousness blended into a single inseparable entity, unlike anything we can categorize today? Perhaps what we see is only the outer layer of a multi-tiered intellectual structure where every carved line is a spiritual code, decipherable only by the Chavan themselves. And it may well be that the Lanzon was neither a god, nor a world axis, nor a star map, but rather a form of symbolic language of the ancient mind, something no modern linguistic system is capable of expressing fully. For this reason, even after 3 millennia and countless studies, the Chavan Lanzon obelisk remains an unsolved mystery. It stands as evidence of a religious, artistic, and cosmological mindset, far too complex, too foreign for our time. And until an undeniable piece of evidence emerges, something archaeologists admit may never happen, the Lanzon will continue to stand in the darkness, silently challenging every interpretation humanity has ever made. In the barren deserts of the Peruvian coast, where scorching winds sweep across endless dunes, there lies a city that many archaeologists call a paradox of history, Chan Chan. It was not built from stone. It has no metal pillars, no binding mortar, yet it has stood firm for centuries, surviving brutal El Niño storms and the harsh climate that destroyed countless structures around it. From above, Chan Chan appears as a colossal labyrinth, its towering earthen walls so immense that it's hard to believe they were built with human hands alone. The carved waves, schools of fish, and hunting seabirds covering its surfaces make it feel as if an ancient ocean had been fossilized beneath the desert sun. But what astonishes researchers the most is not the scale or beauty of Chan Chan, but the secret hidden beneath its dried mud. How did the Chimu, without iron, without cement, and without any surviving technical records, manage to build an immortal mud city, more enduring than many stone monuments around the world? That question has never been fully answered, and the silence of Chan Chan over the centuries has turned it into one of the greatest mysteries of the pre-Columbian world. What do you think kept this immortal mud city standing for so long? Share your theory in the comments below. What makes Chan Chan so difficult to explain is the fact that this vast city was built entirely from adobe, a mud brick mixture of earth, sand, water, and sometimes plant fibers. Normally, adobe is easily eroded by rain and coastal winds, just a single heavy rainy season can collapse similar structures elsewhere. Yet in Chan Chan walls 6 to 12 meters high have remained standing for centuries. The Chimu seem to understand how to train mud into a load-bearing material. They compressed adobe in layered stages, dried it under the desert sun, and arranged the walls in zigzag formations that dispersed wind pressure. This design prevented the walls from being pushed over or cracked as straight walls often are. Their massive dimensions, both thick and tall, also absorbed the desert's intense wind vibrations. All of this created a paradox, a fragile material, transformed into a nearly impenetrable defensive system, surpassing the architectural understanding of its time. Stepping inside these walls feels like entering another world. The reliefs covering the surface's sharks, seabirds, schools of fish reed boats, and geometric patterns representing waves and currents create an immersive environment. As the sun shifts throughout the day, many of these motifs seem to move, making Chan Chan feel like a fossilized ocean where ancient sea creatures swim beneath layers of hardened mud. Archaeologist Mary Glowacki once described walking through Chan Chan's corridors as walking inside the ocean, where the walls themselves tell stories. But Chan Chan is not only beautiful, it was also a political machine. The city was divided into multiple royal compounds, each containing palaces, storage halls, ceremonial courtyards, and burial chambers. Modern researchers still cannot determine the exact purpose of every area due to the extreme architectural complexity. A dominant theory suggests that each Chimu king received his own palace, which was sealed forever after his death, becoming a kind of spiritual palace. This explains why Chan Chan has so many enormous complexes with almost no evidence of reuse or redesign. Chan Chan contains such a complex network of reservoirs and underground canals that many researchers believe this may have been the true hidden heart of the city. The large rectangular pools at the center of royal compounds were once thought to be irrigation structures, but new evidence suggests they likely served ritual purposes rather than practical ones. Chimu elites may have used these pools for purification rites or to observe the reflection of the sky to determine important astronomical timings. The discovery of multiple underground water channels running beneath walkways shows that the Chimu possessed hydraulic knowledge far more advanced than previously assumed. The entire system appears both functional and sacred, yet its exact purpose remains a mystery. Another puzzling fact: despite being located in an arid desert, the city's entire decorative system is based on marine life. For the Chimu, the ocean was not only a source of livelihood, but the center of their religion. Many scholars believe Chan Chan was designed as a terrestrial replica of the kingdom beneath the sea, its walls representing waves and its corridors mimicking flowing currents. But was this purely artistic symbolism, or did it serve a deeper ritual function? No surviving Chimu texts remain to explain the meaning behind these choices. The greatest mysteries of Chan Chan revolve around a single unanswered question that still perplexes archaeologists today. How did the Chimu manage to build an immortal mud city that has endured for centuries? Numerous theories have been proposed, yet none of them fully explain the phenomenon. Some researchers believe the Chimu may have mixed a special binding agent into their adobe, such as plant resin, mineral salts, or an organic substance whose traces have disappeared over time, yet chemical analyses reveal no unusual components. Another theory emphasizes a multi-layer construction method in which each layer of adobe possessed different densities and moisture levels, allowing the walls to better withstand erosion, temperature changes, and climate fluctuations. Some experts even consider this to be technology far ahead of its era. Others suggest that the zigzagging layout of the walls helped disperse desert wind pressure, an aerodynamic design rarely seen in ancient architecture. Another approach points to geography. Chan Chan is shielded by natural sand ridges, creating a microclimate that reduces the impact of rain and strong winds. However, this still does not explain why other adobe sites in the same region suffered far more damage. There are also theories claiming that the Chimu continuously maintained the city, reinforcing the walls after every rainy season, but given the vast scale of Chan Chan, such constant maintenance would have been nearly impossible without an extremely advanced labor management system. Ultimately, despite all these hypotheses, no convincing evidence truly explains why the walls of Chan Chan remain so extraordinarily durable. They are too tall, too thick, and too long-lasting to be merely sun-dried mud walls. Some archaeologists even call Chan Chan the immortal mud city because it has survived longer than many solid stone structures of the ancient world. And even with modern climate simulations, material analyses, and attempts to recreate adobe production techniques, we still cannot reproduce the same level of resilience. This inability of modern science to replicate ancient methods only deepens the mystery of Chan Chan, turning it into one of the most challenging architectural enigmas in human history. This very uncertainty, the space between what we know and what we cannot explain, makes Chan Chan one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites in South America. It is not merely the ruin of an ancient city, but a reminder that many past civilizations possessed refined knowledge of nature and materials that we may not fully understand today. Chan Chan may have been abandoned when the Inca conquered the region, or when El Niño cycles disrupted the Chimu social system. Yet its walls remain silent, enduring the sands and winds of centuries, guarding a secret that has never been fully revealed. High on the wind-sculpted plateaus of Cusco lies a place that feels less like an archaeological site and more like a gateway into a vanished ritual world of the Inca. The Chenco labyrinth doesn't welcome you, it consumes you. A single colossal rock has been carved into dark tunnels, twisting channels, strange altars and pathways that coil as if they possess a will of their own. Nothing in Inca architecture resembles Chenco. It is not a temple, not a fortress, not a palace, nor does it follow any funerary tradition. The entire monument is a self-contained labyrinth, exactly like its ancient name, Quinku, meaning to twist, to curve. But what haunts archaeologists is not the shape, it is the purpose. After decades of research, no scholar has been able to agree on what the dark corridors and enigmatic ritual structures were truly meant for. Chenco feels like a ceremony the Inca deliberately left behind, yet just as deliberately stripped of every clue to understand it. What do you think the Inca were hiding in the darkness of the Chenco labyrinth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stepping onto the surface of Chenco, what astonishes visitors is not only the sheer mass of the carved rock, but the intricate network of channels etched into it with remarkable precision. These grooves twist, curve, and shift direction, abruptly forming smooth, deliberate lines that seem engineered for a highly specific ritual purpose. Some archaeologists believe they once carried chicha for purification ceremonies. Others argue they were meant for water or even blood from sacrificial rites. Yet many of the channels are so narrow that they could not have transported any viscous liquid, making the sacrifice hypothesis increasingly doubtful. Recent studies suggest the grooves may hold symbolic meaning, perhaps representing the flow of life or tracing the path of sunlight during key times of the year. Still, every theory only explains a fragment of the whole, and none have managed to satisfy the scientific community entirely. Descending into Chenco's underground chamber, the first sensation is the overwhelming density of darkness that engulfs everything. At the center of this heavy shadow lies a large stone altar, polished to an almost unbelievable smoothness, far beyond the technical standards typically seen in other Inca constructions. Its edges are beveled or rounded, with near-perfect precision, leading many scholars to believe this place once served an exceptionally important ritual, perhaps even one so unsettling that the Inca chose never to record it. Some ancient accounts describe royal mummification rituals that may have occurred around this altar. Others suggest it was used to prepare bodies before sacred funerary ceremonies. There are also hypotheses involving animal sacrifice and, in rare cases, possibly human sacrifice. Yet no archaeological evidence is strong enough to confirm any of these ideas, leaving Chenco's underground altar as one of the most debated and enigmatic structures in Andean archaeology. The winding, disorienting tunnels of Chenco are among the site's most perplexing features. They are not only dark, but appear intentionally designed to confuse and disorient the person walking through them. In Inca cosmology, darkness symbolizes a return to the womb of Mother Earth, Pachamama. Because of this, some scholars believe that passing through these tunnels represented death descent into the earth and subsequent rebirth. If true, Chenco may have functioned as a transitional space where the Inca conducted rituals of death rebirth or spiritual initiation. On several rock surfaces at Chenco, faint carvings can still be seen: a puma, a snake, a condor, and several divine faces. These are all sacred symbols in Inca cosmology, representing the three levels of the universe: the condor sky, the puma earth, and the serpent underworld. However, these carvings are scattered and do not form a coherent narrative. This has led some researchers to theorize that Chenco was a kind of ritual theater where the Inca reenacted the cosmic journey using choreography of light, shadow, and human movement through the stone spaces. A compelling idea, but one that still lacks definitive archaeological support. One of the most persistent debates surrounding Chenco is whether the site once functioned as a ceremonial observatory. Some of the carved channels and stone faces appear to align with the sun's position during solstices and equinoxes, suggesting that light may have played a meaningful role in rituals performed here. However, unlike highly precise astronomical constructions such as the Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu, the alignments at Chenco are imperfect, leading many experts to believe these correlations might simply be coincidental. Even so, the idea that the Inca used narrow beams of sunlight penetrating the dark labyrinth to create a sacred moment remains incredibly compelling. After all, the entire architecture of Chenco is built around the dramatic contrast between light and darkness, two elements deeply revered in Inca cosmology. All of Chenco's strange features ultimately converge on one central question: what kind of ritual did the Inca perform in the deep darkness beneath this stone labyrinth? The perfectly polished underground altar, the winding tunnels, and the absolute silence of the chamber all evoke Ukupacha, the underworld, in Inca cosmology. Some scholars believe this was the setting for death-related ceremonies where the souls of the departed were symbolically guided back to their ancestors. Another hypothesis argues that Chenco was the heart of Pachamama rituals, in which participants had to descend into total darkness before re-emerging into the light, symbolizing spiritual rebirth. Some researchers propose that the site played a role in royal initiation rites, where an Inca ruler had to undertake a symbolic journey before being formally recognized. Other Andean specialists suggest that Chenco may have served as a space for communicating with the spirit world, similar to ancient cave rituals found throughout the region. Yet each theory only illuminates a small fragment of the whole, and none are strong enough to end the decades-long debate surrounding the true purpose of this enigmatic place. In reality, no Inca text describes Chenco or its true purpose. This absence plunges the site into a historical void. Without records, archaeologists can only infer its function from tool marks, channel directions, symbolic carvings, and tunnel design. But the overwhelming darkness within the labyrinth, where natural light barely reaches, has convinced many that Chenco was the most profound, most enigmatic, and perhaps the most unsettling ritual space ever created by the Inca. The darkness of Chenko is not merely the lack of light, it is the absence of explanation. The Inca built this place with such intentionality and secrecy that they left no clues behind. The twisting corridors, the underground altar, the inexplicable channels, the scattered sacred symbols all merge into a mystery that modern archaeology can only observe from the outside. And within that darkness lies the ultimate question: what did the Inca do in the space they carved with such precision, devotion, and secrecy? Until a new discovery emerges, the Chenko Labyrinth will remain one of the strangest examples of how an advanced civilization could leave behind an extraordinarily sophisticated structure without offering any clear explanation, leaving only stone shadows and the silence of a ritual long lost to time. In the ancient land of Dmanisi in Georgia, beneath layers of old sediment, archaeologists uncovered one of the most controversial collections of ancient human fossils in the history of anthropology. 5 skulls, each strikingly different in shape, yet lying side by side, all dating to about 1.8 million years old. These skulls not only rewrote everything we thought we knew about the timing of humanity's first migration out of Africa, but also posed a major question that has never been fully resolved. Were the Dmanisi people an extremely early form of Homo erectus, or were they a completely new species of Homo, a forgotten evolutionary branch without an official name in the human family tree? This question continues to divide the scientific community to this day. In your opinion, were the Dmanisi humans truly the earliest Homo erectus, or a completely new Homo species? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The initial shock was not the age of the fossils, although 1.8 million years makes them the oldest evidence of humans outside Africa, but the astonishing degree of morphological variation among the skulls. Had these skulls been found at different sites, separated by thousands of kilometers, scientists would certainly have classified them as belonging to different Homo species, one resembling Homo habilis, another similar to Homo rudolfensis, and several showing traits of Homo erectus. Yet they all lay within the same layer from the same time period and belong to the same group of people. All 5 skulls came from a small, ancient community at Dmanisi. This forced scientists to abandon convenient labels and confront a difficult possibility. Perhaps our understanding of how species are divided within the Homo genus is wrong, and many so-called species are merely variations within a single population. Skull 5, known as D4500, is the most striking. It is the most complete ancient human skull ever discovered, combining a large face, strong jaws, and robust teeth with a cranial vault, much smaller than that of classic Homo erectus. The brain volume of Skull 5 is only about 546 cc, nearly the same as Homo habilis. A small brain paired with advanced facial and dental features creates an evolutionary paradox. This combination makes Skull 5 a Rubik's Cube of evolution that anthropologists have yet to solve. And the more closely they examine it, the more they realize that Skull 5 holds the key to the biggest mystery of all, identifying the true nature of the Dmanisi humans. The first hypothesis suggests that the Dmanisi individuals were in fact an early primitive form of Homo erectus, one that appeared sooner and possessed a far wider range of anatomical variation than later populations. From this perspective, the striking differences among the skulls, ranging from brain size and cranial curvature to jaw projection and overall facial structure, are interpreted as natural variation within a large, widely distributed population. However, when compared with all known Homo groups, including modern humans, who already display substantial diversity, the degree of disparity among the Dmanisi skulls still exceeds normal expectations. Some researchers argue that if such vastly different morphologies can all be placed under the label Homo erectus, then the very concept of species in anthropology becomes blurred, and may even lose its fundamental classificatory meaning. The second hypothesis proposes that the Dmanisi humans were actually closer to Homo habilis, a species with a small brain but capable of crafting simple Oldowan stone tools. If this hypothesis is correct, the entire model of early human migration would need to be rewritten because until now, Homo habilis has always been considered a species confined to East Africa with limited mobility and no evidence of venturing beyond the continent. Yet the stone tools found at Dmanisi match the Oldowan tradition of Homo habilis with remarkable precision, raising a startling question. Could Homo habilis have left Africa hundreds of thousands of years earlier than anyone ever suspected? And if that is true, does the long-standing title of the first pioneer given to Homo erectus still hold, or have we completely misunderstood the roles of the earliest human species in shaping humanity's expansion? The third hypothesis is the boldest and most controversial. The Dmanisi humans may have belonged neither to Homo erectus, nor to Homo habilis, nor to Homo rudolfensis, but instead to an entirely new Homo species, a separate evolutionary branch that has never been formally named, sometimes informally referred to as Homo georgicus. The core of this argument centers on Skull 5, a specimen with a large face, strong jaws, and robust teeth, yet a brain volume far too small to qualify as Homo erectus. This combination has never appeared in any known Homo species. Even more striking is that this is not an isolated anomaly. 3 of the 5 Dmanisi skulls exhibit similarly unusual traits. When researchers compile all anatomical data, the entire population reveals a morphological pattern that aligns with no previously known Homo group. This raises the possibility that they represent an independent lineage positioned somewhere between Homo habilis and Homo erectus, yet not fully belonging to either. They resemble a lost evolutionary link, a branch that existed only briefly before disappearing from human history, without leaving any trace other than the skulls found at Dmanisi. The mystery deepens when considering that the Dmanisi people used extremely simple stone tools, Oldowan tools, similar to those of Homo habilis, yet they migrated out of Africa even earlier than the classic Homo erectus populations. Meanwhile, some skull features closely resemble those of Homo erectus. Here was a group with small brains, primitive tools, the ability to travel thousands of kilometers, and the capacity to survive in the cold climate of the Caucasus. This contradicts traditional models of cognitive evolution, which assume that long-distance migration requires large brains and advanced technology. This contradiction makes the Dmanisi humans one of evolution's greatest unsolved puzzles. Additionally, the skeleton of an elderly individual who had lost all their teeth but lived many years afterward reveals a remarkable social dimension. This survival implies that the Dmanisi community cared for and supported weaker members, a behavior previously believed to appear much later in human evolution. This suggests that although their brains may not have fully developed, their social behavior evolved far earlier than expected. As scientists attempt to classify them, all criteria collapse. If placed within Homo habilis, the skulls are too large and too advanced in facial structure. If assigned to Homo erectus, the brains are too small and the variation far too great for a single species. If categorized as Homo rudolfensis, the face of Skull 5 does not fit. This fit nowhere pattern has fueled decades of debate. Today, the central question remains unanswered. Who were the Dmanisi humans in the grand evolutionary tree? Were they the earliest Homo erectus, an unusual form of Homo habilis, or a completely new species, a branch that vanished before leaving any trace beyond the 5 skulls at Dmanisi? No explanation is strong enough to win universal acceptance. And this ambiguity is precisely what makes the Dmanisi skulls one of the greatest mysteries in modern anthropology, a puzzle that may continue challenging us for decades to come. Along the icy rock shores of Alaska, where crashing waves echo like whispers from a forgotten age, lies one of the most mysterious collections of rock carvings in North America, the Tlingit petroglyphs. They are carved directly into coastal stone surfaces, scattered across Wrangel Island and many other parts of Alaska where the ancient Tlingit once lived. For modern visitors, these markings may appear as simple decorative scratches, but for archaeologists, anthropologists, and even Tlingit elders, they represent an undeciphered treasure, a lost language carved into stone, and possibly the key to understanding the spiritual world of an ancient culture. What do you think these Tlingit petroglyphs were created for rituals, territorial markers, or messages to the spirits? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Unlike many ancient carving systems around the world that are supported by surviving myths, texts, or ritual records, the Tlingit petroglyphs exist within a strange void of history. There are no scrolls, no ancestral songs, and no epic tales that mention their origins. Even today's Tlingit elders can only speculate based on fragmented memories passed down through generations. This absence of explanation turns the carvings into an unreadable prehistoric archive, a language of stone, whose dictionary has been wiped away by time, leaving behind cryptic marks that challenge every modern attempt to decode them. More than 500 carvings have been discovered so far, and astonishingly, almost no two are alike. Some depict faces with exaggerated, oversized eyes, while others portray hybrid human-animal figures as if they had stepped out of a long-lost legend. Alongside them are spirals, concentric circles, and geometric motifs that match no known symbolic system in North America. Their diversity suggests these carvings were not the work of a single generation, but the accumulated expressions of many over time, each leaving behind a fragment of memory. Together, they form a multi-layered mosaic of mystery that modern science has yet to piece together. The placement of the Tlingit petroglyphs is one of the most perplexing mysteries for researchers. Many carvings lie far above the current tide line, seemingly untouched by seawater for centuries, while others hide at the very edge of the waves, visible only for a few brief hours when the tide recedes. This inexplicable contrast raises countless questions. Was the ancient sea level much lower, or have geological shifts lifted or lowered the shoreline over thousands of years? Or was this an intentional design, with the Tlingit choosing each location according to the rhythm of the sea, performing rituals or carving the stones during precise moments only they understood? If so, these petroglyphs may once have been secret markers, appearing only when nature allowed messages, meant solely for those who truly understood the language of the tides and the stone. Many carvings depict strange beings' faces with non-human proportions, oversized eyes, curved mouths, or bodies stretched like aquatic creatures. Some Tlingit elders believe these may represent ancestral figures who came from the sea, a motif found in fragmented Tlingit origin legends. But because every clan preserves its own version, most of them incomplete scholars suspect that an entire layer of sacred knowledge may have been lost, leaving behind only these carved traces. Even with the surviving fragments of ancient Tlingit legends, we still cannot determine what the carved beings on these rocks truly represent. They may be spiritual entities, once worshipped by the Tlingit, or symbolic ancestors who became mythologized over generations. Yet it is equally possible that these figures depict real creatures, mysterious beings from the icy waters of Alaska that the ancestors of the Tlingit once encountered, feared, or revered as sacred signs. This ambiguity hovering between mythology, ancestry, and natural creatures turns the petroglyphs into one of the most elusive enigmas, forever suspended on the blurred boundary between imagination and ancient memory. One of the most striking features of the Tlingit petroglyphs is their astonishing level of erosion. Many carvings have faded so deeply that they blend almost seamlessly into the natural rock surface, suggesting they may be far older than the timeline typically assigned to Tlingit culture. Some archaeologists believe these markings could belong to a pre-Tlingit community people who lived in Alaska long before the ancestors of the modern Tlingit arrived. If this hypothesis is true, then these carvings are rare stone memories of a vanished culture, leaving behind no other ruins except for these weathered lines that continue to resist the passage of time. The true purpose of the Tlingit petroglyphs has long been one of the most puzzling questions for archaeologists, anthropologists, and the Tlingit community itself. There are no ancient texts, no surviving rituals, and no unified explanation, only stone wind and the weathered traces left behind over countless generations. Some Tlingit elders believe these carvings once served as spiritual gateways, places where people entered a sacred state to communicate with ancestors or sea deities. The spirals may symbolize flows of energy, passages between worlds, or altered states of consciousness understood only by those trained in ancient rites. Yet with the original ceremonies lost, these interpretations remain faint echoes of a distant past. On the other hand, many researchers view the petroglyphs as territorial markers, or ancient maps possibly recording whale routes, fishing grounds, or clan boundaries. But if they were merely markers, why depict such strange faces, myth-like creatures, and choose locations submerged by the tide most of the day? The answer may lie in a third theory, that these carvings were visual offerings, symbolic gifts to the spirits who govern the sea. If true, they could represent one of the earliest forms of supernatural communication among ancient Alaskan peoples, a language made not of sound, but of symbols carved into stone. There is also a hypothesis that the petroglyphs functioned as a form of knowledge storage, an outdoor library, documenting tidal rhythms, weather signs, or natural patterns observed across generations. But as oral traditions fractured over time, this knowledge vanished, leaving behind silent lines that resist every attempt at interpretation. No matter how convincing the theories may seem, none can break the silence of the stone. And it is precisely this silence that makes the true purpose of the Tlingit petroglyphs one of the most unanswerable mysteries in North America. And this is the most compelling part of the mystery: there is no final answer. Whether scholar, elder, or explorer, everyone is left with only theories. The Tlingit petroglyphs remain there, silent against the roaring waves, holding secrets that modern humanity may never recover. They may have been created for gods, for rituals, or as a symbolic language forever beyond our reach. Or, as some believe, they were never meant for us to understand at all. They are messages from a world that vanished, a world only the ancient Tlingit could truly comprehend.